Прийшли окупанти до нас в Україну, форма новенька, воєнні машини, та трохи поплавився їх інвентар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російські танкісти сховались в кущі, щоб лаптем посьорбати довбані щі, та трохи у чах перегрівся навар. Байрактар, зі сходу до нас барани для восстановлення
великой страны.
Найкращий пастух баранячих отар. Байрактар. Байрактар. Їх доводи всяке озброєння, різне, потужні ракети, машини залізні, у нас на всі доводи є коментар. Байрактар. Байрактар. Вони захопити хотіли нас зразу, а ми зачаїли на орків образу з російських бандитів. Робить примар. Байрактар. Байрактар. Російська поліція справи заводить, там пивцю рашистів ніяк не знаходить, хто винен, що в нашому полі глухар. Байрактар. Байрактар. Веде пропаганду кремлівський урод, слова пропаганди ковтає народ, тепер нове слово знає цар.
Байрактар.
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 Yes.
The Leaf Street Army sends its regards.
Hello, everyone. I'm the Enforcer, and I'm accompanied by Enforcer Matt.
And good evening, folks. And it is New Year's Day, and welcome back to day 313 of the news. And it's good to see you all once again, and hopefully you're recovered from last night's festivities.
Yay! And of course, we're going to be reporting on the past 24 hours of the news of the war in Ukraine. And of course, while it's a new year, the Russians are not getting any kind of new, I guess you could say, victories. It has been an entire day where the front line has not moved anywhere that I've physically seen of any size. Specifically in Bakhmut, they have not moved even a foot forward. But, you know, that never stops the Russians from believing that their New Year's resolutions will turn things around. You know, like many people. You know, there's a lot of people out there who on New Year's, they always go and make a resolution. I'm not one of those people, but there are people who go and say things like, I'm going to exercise more, and I'm going to, you know, eat less, or I'm going to, I don't know, read more books, or you know, travel the world, or something like that. The Russians made a New Year's resolution that they were going to win a whole lot more, and they did the complete opposite, like many of the other New Year's resolutions that I just stated, and they started to lose a whole lot more. But that never stopped the Russians from believing that the New Year's resolution had just come true, because on Russian propaganda today, they're already talking about, again, invading Poland. Because, you know, they've already won in Ukraine. It's in the bag. I mean, this is winning here. And you'll never see winning like this anywhere else. The Russians have won so much, they've gotten tired of winning. And so now they're setting their eyes on Poland again. And also, just in case if you have any family members that are always skeptical about why supporting Ukraine is important, it's because if they did win in Ukraine, this is what they would actually be seriously saying. And they would probably be trying to carry through on it as well. So with that, here's our little video showing them on their propaganda screens. Of course, I have to remind y'all that this kind of brain rot is not good, and the general surgeon generally warns against these kinds of things being shown for long durations of time. However, I do not listen to the general surgeon, and that's why I'm going to ensure that all of y'all have some form of brain rot insured by the end of this clip. So with that, here's the video, and it's somewhat of a short one, but still, the brain rot is clearly evident. And also, the quality is incredibly low. If y'all can't see this over here, this is not my computer. This video is actually in 240p. I'm waiting for Matt to go, dang, that's bad graphics. But
Oh, okay.
He's like, I'm busy in the
I didn't think that required a response.
He's about to say on my phone, I'm busy, you idiot. I mean, he is. But so, anyways, moving on from that. I'm going to read this all for y'all because I don't know if y'all can read this or not. It's very grainy. More and more questions are raised about the fourth partition of Poland. The fourth partition? This man has got ambition here. You see this old fart? You see, he was around back when the third partition of Poland occurred back in the 1940s. Now he's sitting around still, and he's talking about the fourth partition of Poland. This guy's out of his freaking mind. They can't even fight Ukraine, and this guy is always dreaming about taking on Poland and all of NATO to do it.
О четвертом разделе Польши.
Пятом, пятом.
Ну да, если так, то пятом, да.
And now we don't even have to... It deserved it.
С одной стороны,
On the hand, it deserves a partition. Why in the world is he talking about Poland like it's a small kid? Like he's addressing Poland as it. He's like, it's a little crap. It deserves to have whatever happens to it. Like, why in the world is this guy thinking it's a little kid or something? You know, once again, I just gotta say, maybe a little senile, but we'll let it slide for now. On the other hand, one can combine this with the current, what? The current what? The current developments. We can give them some parts and take everything, the parts that Stalin gave to them. Well, Eastern Prussia, let us first take Slavyansk before we determine the borders of Europe. Oh, this guy actually came in with some common sense at the end. He's like, let's just take the actual towns in Ukraine just one at a time, if we ever can, and then we'll start to focus on bigger ambitions like Poland. I don't know if this guy, if this commentator is saying this stuff to either mislead the public or something, but the idea that Russians actually believe that they can already start looking beyond Ukraine and on into other countries for war is absolutely insane. These people actually think they're either so delusional or they're misleading the Russian public to think that the war is going so well that they can go ahead and start invading other countries or preparing to do it. That's how crazy they are. And you know something that's really funny about this whole thing? while everyone in Russia thinks that they can take on the whole world and they shape the world as it is, the fact of the matter is that the Russian military commanders, as well as Putin, know that if they went to war against NATO in a conventional land war, they would lose within hours. It would be just a matter of days before this war would have been lost and they were being pushed back into Russia. So, kind of interesting to see that these people are still that delusional, and of course, a small amount of brain rot for all of y'all to enjoy. I guess the Russians are trying to cope any way they can, but the ways they cope are pretty stupid if you ask me. We're now going to be moving down into Romania, where y'all may have heard that that a very interesting person actually got arrested, I think a day or two ago. He's been making the rounds on the internet, at least, and we're not going to get into him too much, but I still think it's hilarious that he got doxxed because of the brand of pizza that was on his podcast. I think that was probably the funniest way to get arrested, is because you were eating pizza. But moving on from that little side note and on into Romania, we don't know where this really occurred, so I put it down in Bucharest. It was in Romania. And they had a little bit of a New Year celebration, kind of like in the rural, traditional way, wherever this is. But they did some special changes. I'll let y'all see. We can see Tractor with a Z on it. You see this guy riding on the back with some kind of a trailer?
Has he got a pistol in his hand?
I don't know. Like, did he have a gat?
It looked like it.
He did. He had a gat. He's
all right.
Man, that man is strapped with the gat. That tell him after a slot. You see the next one coming down with some horrid-sounding trumpet. Playing some jams. See them all dancing on the back with more gats.
What the hell?
And a Putin. Oh my god, man. I think it's Putin will hang in the middle of the Kremlin. He made a guest appearance.
Oh my goodness.
And that little kid, Mommy, why is that guy doing acrobatics from his neck? Oh, Lord. And there's the trumpet
Also,
again.
by the way, folks, just a quick question. Is it hanged or is it hung? Just like an internal debate we've been having. Let us know, folks.
Well, let me clarify that real quick. Is it hanged or hung in the context of someone being executed by a rope being put around their neck and having it broken that way? Is that hung or hanged? Throw that up as a poll, Matthew. Let's see what people are saying on that. Also, by the way, everyone, before we get on into tonight, because I've been waiting for my phone to reboot this entire time, and it finally did, it's now time for me to go over the Sunday night fundraiser real quick. So allow me a moment to give y'all the pitch. Of course, this is a fundraiser that we have run for quite some time, every single Sunday since we were able to. And I believe this may be something like our 40th one. But moving on from that, tonight's fundraiser is for World Central Kitchen, which has been doing an amazing amount of work in Ukraine. They've been there the entire time helping to feed thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians that have not had any good access to good drinking water or food, and they've been helping out massively. Of course, tonight's fundraiser goal is $5,000, and the Least Spring Army, in a matter of 20 minutes, has already been able to get to 1.5 thousand. So, real quick, before I keep going, I always have a commitment to these fundraisers. I have to throw in $100 every single Sunday. So let me go and throw in my $100, and it's still not allowing my name to show up. Like, the button's just not working. That is weird. So it's going to, unfortunately tonight, because I'm still going to do it, it's going to show up as anonymous, so just know that this one is me. So, continue. That's so stupid. I don't know why in the world that just breaks on my phone every once in a while. It's just like, yeah, you can't show who you are. And I already turned off the phone and restarted it, and it's still not doing it. So I'm going to send it in. Y'all should be seeing it. It's going to be $100 in the live chat right there. Anonymous donated $100. That's stupid. That really like miffs me a whole load, is that I can't even push the button. Like, it just does not allow the check mark to pop up in it. But anyways, I put in my $100. I hope, if anything, that inspires some of y'all, now that I've, of course, always put in my endorsement of it in that way, to support tonight's fundraiser and get it on up there to $5,000. But with that, we're going to be moving on out of Romania, which is always neat to see. And it looks like, Matthew, this is a really close freaking poll. It's literally neck and neck right now.
Yes, and we actually found the answer to it, but don't say it yet, Enforcer. I want to see what everybody else thinks first.
All right, all right. So with that, we're going to be moving on up to the northern border because a lot of people always thought that Santa's workshop was in the Arctic, like the North Pole and everything. But we actually found Santa's workshop as a border post near the Belarusian border. Doesn't that look like Santa's workshop or something like that?
It does, actually.
It's crazy. I mean, like, this is actually a really nice little hut, and this is just a, I guess you could say, like, a border post building or something similar to that. Really wild and really nice, too. These guys are really living it up here in the Belarusian front, but nothing's happening, so, of course, they get to live it up a little bit and have a nice time up there, and hopefully they are, because, I mean, hell, based off of that, I wouldn't doubt it. We're now going to be moving on out of the northern area and on towards Kyiv, where we also saw a really cool system that calls back to a time when this used to be somewhat normal. What you're looking at right here is a machine gun. I forgot which one this is. I know it's not the NSV, but it's another kind of 50 caliber. I think it's a Dishka, I believe this would be. But it's a Dishka, and attached to it is a massive spotlight.
That is so bright to like see the beam in midair. That must be like what, 1,000,000 lumens?
It's got to be something incredibly bright. That's one thing that we know for certain. Like, I wonder if you could just use the light as a weapon. You know, like you see a Shahed in the sky, enemy Shahed, just shine the light on it, and the camera can't see anything. It's just nothing but light, like it's flying into the sun.
Indeed, that would be pretty cool.
And also the camo is pretty interesting looking too. Like, I don't know how they did the camo, but that's a very odd looking camo, something we've never seen before. And it honestly looks like they took leaves that have fallen to the ground and just held them up on the... Wait a minute, hang on. Those actually look like little Christmas tree cutouts that they spray painted onto this thing over and over.
Oh yeah, it does. It looks like little mini furs.
It's a little Christmas truck with a little Christmas spotlight. They're gonna spot Santa Claus, and the light's gonna be so bright he's gonna get blinded, crash, and Christmas will be ruined. But anyways, very neat to see the air defenses that they're setting up around Kyiv and the links and ideas that they're going through to try and get something that will work. This is probably intended to be used against something like a Shahed, considering that a machine gun is not exactly the best thing to be used to shoot down cruise missiles and ballistic missiles, but only one can guess. Maybe they'll use it against everything, and maybe you'll actually get something, I don't know, but still pretty cool. We're now moving on from the Kyiv news, and we're going to be moving on down into our location unknowns. And we actually have some really interesting ones tonight. And so, starting off with our first little bit, we saw a la 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 la
Mars.
la 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 la. Hi, Mars. Oh, holy schmoly! It's always fun to see these things launch. The Russians are seething every time they see these things still exist. They're like, "Echo, you haven't killed them yet, please!" You know, and they just suck so bad they can never even find them. But anyways, nice seeing that little video, and hopefully it hit its target quite well. We're actually going to skip out of the location unknowns real quick, and I'm actually going to tie this whole story together because these things actually hit their mark. I'll show y'all. Meanwhile, in Makiivka... Oh, hang on. Wrong one. Meanwhile, in Makiivka, as it loads, really taking off the whole climactic thing I'm doing here. Anyways, here we go. Some Russians are having a little party, having some drinks. Some of the gin and the juice. He gets up to go out onto the balcony, and the chick's like, "Holy moly!"
Dang.
And something blew up outside. Incredibly loud. Now, what y'all are wondering right now is, what the hell was that? And I have the answer for y'all. That was a school. And no, it wasn't a school filled with kids. It's nighttime. Why the hell would there be kids inside of a school at night? What the school was filled with was ammunition. The Russians had converted the school into an ammo depot in Makiivka and had loaded it up with several dozen tons of ammunition inside of it. And of course, in typical Russian fashion, all of it was in the same part of the building, the dead center, and filled up every single part of it. And so, when this thing blew up, it didn't just cause a bright flash and a loud noise. it actually leveled the school. Like, here's the video of the aftermath of what the school looked like. That's a school.
Dang.
Not just one wall. It's a small structural wall. Stands. That's it. We hear a Fiat honking their horn. And now we're going to move on to the final picture, which is really going to tie this all together real nicely for y'all. And y'all are going to see how crazy this really was. Here's a picture of that school before the explosion and after the explosion. That's the school before the explosion. This is the school now. It's
Dang,
gone.
it was actually pretty nice beforehand.
Yeah, it was actually really nice. Like, if Matthew and me had gone to a school like that, we would have actually probably had a pretty decent education. Instead, we went to, like, some kind of, like, a concrete bunker in the wilderness. But moving on from that, and everyone's going to be like, what kind of schools do y'all have in Alabama? Very poor ones. But moving on from that, this school got obliterated. And I don't think these kids will be coming back to school. I think they're going to have, what do we call it? It's not a snow day because it blew up. What in the world?
They're gonna have a hooky. They're gonna play hooky.
Oh, get the hell out of here, man. I know what you're trying to do with that. Get out.
Wait, what was I trying to do with it?
Oh,
was that like a pun?
No. I was going in another direction. You were going to add an R to the end of that thing, and we were going to have a problem. But anyways, moving on.
Your mind's in the gutter. I wasn't trying to do that.
No, I know where the live chat's I know where the live chat's going to take that. I already know. But still, a wild thing to see, and the Ukrainians were able to take out an incredibly large single building in one go. And according to the reports, y'all might not believe this either, Matthew, and I think you need to hold on to your seat here. 600 Russians were killed in this school. So there were 600 Russian soldiers inside of this building with the ammunition when it went up, and that's supposedly what is being said right now. We don't really know if that's true, and we haven't got any corroborating videos or pictures to show if 600 Russians had been blown away in a single ammunition dump explosion, but it's something that's not always out of the question, because we have seen things like this happen before, but on slightly smaller scales, like the time that Wagner base was hit at that football stadium, and about 120 guys got killed there. That was true, and we did get videos to back that up, so this may also be true, and we just don't have the video or picture evidence to really back up that casualty report. But
well, let me say something. Let me say something real quick about these two pictures. I just noticed, because Chris Curl said the blast radius doesn't look right. Looking at these two pictures, something is not adding up between the two. That does not look like the same site where that building was standing.
Oh?
Yeah, there's a power line running through the area right there, and there's no power line where that building's sitting.
Well, yeah, that's because this picture was taken a lot closer to the building. Like they're way far.
And
back.
also, what's that in the background as well? It looks like either really thick smoke or a line of mountains back there or something.
That's just really thick smoke. There's no mountains in Ukraine. There's none. And this was
something about this picture doesn't look anywhere close to what that building was up top.
Well, probably because it's been blown away. I'm sure if you look at ground zero at 9/11, it doesn't look like the Twin Towers, but this was that school. Like, you know, it's
But what happened to the sidewalk and everything?
Well, Matthew, I mean,
like the grass is all like overgrown all of a sudden and everything.
Well, yeah, but they're 200 yards away, and also this picture was probably taken in like 2014 or something similar.
Huh.
I'm
not sure about that.
All right, we'll actually, you know what? We're going to go to Makiivka, and we're going to go and find the school, because it shouldn't be that hard to find. So let's see here. Looking around. I'm lying. It's actually going to be really hard to find because Makiivka is kind of big, but we're still going to look for it. If anyone has the coordinates, give them to us, and we're going to go and hop over to it and take a look at it, because, like, I don't know why that would all be, like, some kind of a giant ruse and conspiracy. Like, you know, like, what are the Ukrainians going to do? Blow up a building and then crawl through the rubble to make it look like they blew something up? You know? I mean, like, you know, it is the building in Makiivka. It's just that now I have to go and try and find it. Now we're all the way up there. So, dang, is it that hard to find a school in Ukraine? Let's see here. Schools in Makiivka. School number 19. So, let's type that in. School number.
Doesn't it have an address?
I don't know. All it says right here is school number 19. So, I'm going to try and find it off of that. School 19. School number 19. Let's see if we can... Okay, apparently they're all in America. Let's see, let me back up from this, and let me go try and find another one. Look at that. I love it. I love it. You've reached your article limit. Screw you.
Oh, nice.
See here. So, New Year's Eve, 400 Russians were killed. About 300 more were wounded. Let's see. The blow was delivered. It is noted. We're in the building. Here we go. Let's go find it off of that. So we're now going to put that here. We're going to put that. That's in Vladimir. So, let's see, someone just said it again. Kremleska Street, 48. Let me go and put that down.
I see several folks saying that Denny's found it, but no Google car had passed it to take a picture of it. Stanislav Novosad says the address. He gives an address right here. Do you see it in the live chat?
Let's see. Here we go. Let's put that in. Let's see. Wait a minute, you're talking about Vadim? Or
yeah, you can try that one too and see if it works.
So let's see. We're getting down to the bottom of this, folks. We're gonna get down to the bottom of this. We're gonna find the school.
Might that be it?
May this be it? Let's zoom out. So it is way, way east of Makiivka. It's almost on its edge. I guess you could say it's more of a suburb. Let's see if we can drop down. We cannot drop down. And there are no pictures of the school.
Do we see any of those sidewalks or anything that were in the other photo?
No, this
doesn't even look like the same building.
No, this doesn't even really look like the same building, actually.
I'll be totally honest. That picture of that last... go back to the first picture you showed us.
Let's see. This one. That is not
that building. Yeah, that's definitely not the same one. And also, that looks like a more modern building than you typically see in Ukraine.
Well, I mean, like, it's not really that modern looking compared. I mean, like, hell, if you look at Kyiv, Kyiv is a pretty modern city and it's downtown. But still,
also, try and take Alaska, send some coordinates as well if you want to look at those.
Let's see. Try and take Alaska. Here we go. Those look very similar to the other ones, but we'll put them in. And we'll see. Let's put that in. Okay, so let me take out the equal signs, and then we'll put that in. Yep, same school. He put in the exact same one.
Huh. Interesting. Well, we have a slight discrepancy here, so I guess we'll be left wondering.
I guess we will be. One thing we do know is that regardless of where the school was, or if it really looked like this one in the picture, it was blown away. We can tell that pretty clearly. But I don't think it's this one, because one thing to me, if 600 Russians were supposedly knocked out, how in the world do you fit dozens of tons of ammo and also hundreds of Russian soldiers all in this one small building? I don't think you could. It's got to be a different school that's larger, because this one is just way too small. But then again, it is Shkola number 19, so that is lining up with what everyone's saying. It is school 19, but it just doesn't look. I don't know. We'll leave it at what it is. It did get blown up, though, and it was a decent-sized ammunition depot, as you could tell in the video, when it pretty much blew out the glass in that small little apartment building. We're now going to be moving on from this news in Donetsk, and we're going to be moving on up back into our location unknowns to get on to our next little bit of news, where we saw some Ukrainian-made ammo in use, which is very interesting, and also a great thing to know. These little green, well, not green, sorry, I'm colorblind. These yellow shells here are actually made in Ukraine. They're not old Soviet vintage ammo. They're Ukrainian-made ammo made this year. This is something that they've been trying to tackle as much as they can, and a lot of Western countries have been trying to support them with all the 152mm ammunition that they have, but it still wasn't enough. And so the Ukrainians have actually opened manufactories inside of their own country that are able to produce these shells, and it looks like they're getting a pretty decent amount of them. All of them in a very nice taxi cab yellow. So that way the Russians can see them a little bit better.
That's like the most vibrant yellow like I've ever seen.
Yeah, and also you can see the original one there, the stainless one. Honestly, I really like the stainless one better, at least in looks, but hell, the yellow one's getting the job done. Maybe the yellow is some kind of protective coating or something similar to stop it from corroding or similar. But you can see all of the cases here for these shells, and of course, they're back in business, and they're making sure to keep this stuff going strong. Yeah! And so with that, that's the end of that little bit of news, and once again, the Ukrainian ammo and the Ukrainian guns will continue to keep firing thanks to the support of their own industry helping to make this ammunition. We're now going to be moving on into the next bit of Location Unknown news, where we also saw that the Ukrainians captured a Mista, which is a very interesting piece to be capturing this late in the war. Also, that music is hype.
Dang. Look at that muzzle brake on that.
Man, look at the schnoz on that. Like, for some reason, Matthew, when that gun tilted down, I thought it was going to go and sniff. It's like, that's soldier. You now see them lining up the gun, firing it. Leaves flying all around. They're firing it again. And with that, that's the end of the video. But once again, pretty neat to see that they captured a Mista S and then put it to work as well. But that thing has a huge gun. Also, by the way, the Mistas don't really have any armor. If you hit it, it will blow up immediately, regardless of what you hit it with. But still, it is a pretty high-end piece compared to what both sides are largely using now. And so the Ukrainians hopefully are putting this thing to good effort and hitting stuff accurately with it. We're now going to be moving on into the next bit of Location Unknown news, where we can also see some battlefield buddies. Some very cute battlefield buddies, by the way. And look at that thing. That's cute.
Look at that dog. I was trying to figure out like what kind of breed it is. It looks like what kind of dog does that look like? I was about to say husky, but never mind. That really doesn't look like a husky.
I don't know. I don't really know what kind of dog that is. But moving on to the next one. Oh, look at that one.
Oh, I like that one. It's like a corgi mixed with a German Shepherd and something else.
Yeah, kind of. That thing's a mutt. Whatever it is, it's definitely a mutt, but it's a cute, precious little mutt. I love that thing. And then on the next picture, we can see a little baby puppy. Oh, look at that thing. Also, look at that cute one over there. Oh man, all these are cute. Like I'm trying to make one of them sound better than the other. All of these are super cute dogs. They're all 10 out of 10, super sweet. I love them. And then the last picture, we can see one here that's had a little bit of an injured paw, and he's taking a nap in a blanket. Sweet little thing, and I hate that happened to him. Hopefully he gets better. But still, another cool thing about this is that they actually rescued all of these from active combat areas, front lines. And so all of these dogs have been saved from probably a very unfortunate fate, and now they're traveling around with these units in the Ukrainian army, doing all that soldiering and all that cool stuff. And so, once again,
nice.
Super sweet little dogs. I love that dog. That's probably the best one yet. But with that, we are going to be moving on to the next one, where we can also see a very lucky Ukrainian soldier.
Покажи, братанчик. Це вхід, їбать. Це виход, нахуй. І, блядь, візьми тут. І нахуй, сука. Єбать, блядь. Да.
Wait a minute. Was that blood on the top of his head?
Well, I can't go back and show it now. I was going to go back and show it, but now that you said that, YouTube will probably flag it if we go back and do it again. But yeah, it was. The bullet actually just grazed the very top of his scalp.
Interesting.
Yeah, so pretty wild, I have to say. So with that, that's the end of that little clip. And once again, this guy is lucky. He got a really close call there, and it almost got him. And also, one other thing that a lot of people have a misconception of is that these helmets are actually supposed to protect you from rifle fire, and it's kind of lame that, you know, we've gotten so far and so advanced in headgear technology, and we still cannot stop rifle bullets, because these things are really only supposed to stop pistol fire or shrapnel. And rifles will just still pass clean through. So this guy got super lucky, like lucky, like really lucky.
It's the Ukrainian Forrest Gump.
Did Forrest Gump get shot in the helmet?
I think so. Didn't he take his helmet off and he had like a bullet hole through the front and back like that? And he was like, huh, how'd that happen?
I don't know. I don't really remember that, but if he did, oh, something bet me. But anyways, we're going to be moving on to the next bit of location unknown news. Once again, a super lucky guy. And on to the next one. We actually saw that there may be a new contender for the turret toss record. I'm going to show this to y'all and let y'all decide.
А вот та, что стоит вдоль, блядь, есть танк.
The tank got hit.
Есть башня.
Like, it even got a response out of them. They were like, holy moly. Like, they're like, that turret was in the air for 7 seconds. Like, let's go back to when it got hit, right here. All right, so let's count from here. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi, 5 Mississippi, 6 Mississippi, 7 Mississippi, 8 Mississippi. 8 seconds of airtime on that thing. 8 seconds! How high did that go?
There's no telling.
There's no telling. There's no telling at all.
I don't have the answers here. You're asking the wrong person.
But I mean, like, maybe, I don't know, like, let's try and shoot around some ideas. Maybe 300 feet?
I have no clue. Maybe so.
I don't know. Is this the new turret toss record? Let us know in the live chat, because this thing, it was insane. We didn't get to see it in flight, but just the airtime alone that it had was absolutely nuts. I don't think we've ever seen one fly for that long. It may be a new turret toss world record holder. So with that, we're now going to be moving on from this little clip on Twitter and on into our last bit in the location unknown news, where we can see the Russian losses. And they're still high. I was going to clean my room until I got high. Anyways, 760 Russian troops have been wiped out today. Another 9 armored personnel carriers, 13 supply trucks, 2 tanks, 5 artillery pieces, 46 drones, 12 cruise missiles, 1 special equipment. Wait a minute. 1 Bobcat skid steer again. Those Bobcat skid steers, Matthew, they are getting the worst luck out of anything in this war. Every once in a while, some guy just driving around, playing in the dirt, gets blown away.
Yeah, it's like, did we ever figure out if they're using Bobcats or some kind of like Russian ripoff?
Let's see what a Russian Bobcat. Oh, that's not what I'm looking for, but that's kind of cool.
There's such thing as a Russian Bobcat, like an animal? What the hell? I didn't know that.
Man, that thing kind of looks cool. That one kind of looks goofy, though.
What the hell?
That looks like a house cat that got, like, feral. Oh, man.
It looks like a chill animal, though.
Oh, look at this one. This one literally just looks like a baby kitten with some weird ears. Man. Dang, who in the world knew that when we tried to pull up a Russian Bobcat, we would find Russian Bobcats? Kind of wild, actually. Also, that's not a Bobcat. That's like a puma, or a cougar.
Full-grown one too.
Yeah. I mean, like, what the hell? That's. Anyways, once again, Russians. You know, the Russians being the Russians. You know what I mean? We're getting. Oh, that's a fat one. That's a chunky one right there. Look at that thing. That thing's adding on the weight, man. Like, this thing is eating like good food, like straight up butter and hamburgers. Jeez.
He said, "Call me chunk."
I like it when you call me Big Papa. Man, we're having a fun time with this, actually. Like, let's look at one more. Oh man, this one's scraggly.
Oh, that poor thing needs some meat.
This one's the local crocodile dealer of the like Russian Bobcats. I have the crocodile. Do you have the syringe, bled? But anyways, we gotta move on from this. We gotta find the Russian Bobcat ripoff. Knockoff. Russian excavators, maybe?
Russian skid steer loaders?
Russian skid steers. That's probably how we'll find it.
Well, well, they pull up like a picture of, what's that, a John Deere?
Yeah, it looks like a John Deere. Look at this one. Like, this is an instruction manual for the
it's a ripoff John Deere.
The PG-20. The PG-20, and it has no logos on it whatsoever, but it looks a lot like a Caterpillar.
Wait a minute, what's that thing over there on eBay to the left of it, the orange one?
This one?
Yeah, a Termit 1000.
Hang on, Termit
A
1000. It really is just a Bobcat ripoff. The thing is
Yeah, they
exactly.
call it a Termit.
Let's see. Termit 1000 is our entry-level skid steer loader that's easy to use in small areas, yet powerful and versatile enough. Termit 1000 skid steer loaders are low maintenance and easy service, making them affordable, efficient, and highly productive. The skid steer loader is easy to handle and maintain. This contributes to the rapid elimination of any malfunctions that arise. Why in the world is that like the most Russian phrasing that you could ever imagine for that kind of statement? This contributes to
weapon.
the rapid elimination of any malfunctions. It sounds like whenever there's a malfunction, it gets sent to the gulag and shot. Like it's like, you're off to the salt mines today. But I gotta find out. Holy moly. They just have...
Hey.
Those things look stupid, man. Like, that looks like a Chad face, like, front, like a flat front truck. That's dumb. But is this really... Hang on, context. Let's go to the context here. Yeah, they're in Russia. And where is this in Russia? Oh, look, we can get layers. Wow, that really went from being somewhat to really a crap hole. Jeez.
Damn.
Look at that. Oh, wait a minute, we can zoom out over
We
here.
build termites. It's like the termites are building the termites.
Yeah. Let's zoom all the way. Oh, holy moly. I think this is in like the middle of Russia, just north of Kazakhstan a little bit. In the middle of nowhere, they're building these things. The straight up Bobcat ripoffs. So there actually is one of these. It is entirely possible that when you look at the casualty report on this page and it shows this little skid steer, it could definitely be a Termit 1000 that just got blown away today that they're counting as a casualty. That is actually hilarious at the same, like, in every way. I didn't actually think they had these things. For the whole time, I was like, nah, they probably don't have them. But they do.
That's crazy.
It's like they have loads of these things. It's just like there's different brands and everything. There's a John Deere. That's just a normal John Deere. But, yeah, I mean, like...
Wait a minute. What is that thing? See that thing with the huge tires on it? The gray, like, vehicle there?
Amphibious Russian...
Is that a ripoff of that thing, that Sherp ATV that we have?
No, that is a Sherp ATV.
Why does it say Russia's crazy new truck?
Russia's crazy new truck can drive on all surfaces. Wait a minute.
That's not Russia's.
Sherp, let's just type that in. Sherp ATV. We're getting down to the bottom of all this. Wait a minute.
It's Ukrainian.
It's Ukrainian. It's
the thieves. The Russians are straight up thieves.
It's Ukrainian, and the Russians are going to try and steal the credit from the Ukrainians and call it a Russian ATV, or the website that published this. Who the hell published that? Elite Riders? What are they, idiots? Like, it's literally from
Readers.
Kyiv.
Elite readers.
Oh, elite readers, whatever. No, I'm boring. Yeah, thanks. Oh, wow, look at that. Write that down, Matthew. Write that down. Anyways, yeah. What the hell are they talking about? This thing is from Ukraine.
I see half the people saying Sherp is Russian, and half of them say Sherp is Ukrainian. It's definitely Ukrainian according to Wikipedia.
Wikipedia. But, like, it's definitely 100% Ukrainian. It says it right here. And if we pull up their website, where does it say they come from?
Their headquarters in Kyiv.
Yeah. Like it's obviously Ukrainian. If their headquarters is in Ukraine, look, the website's actually in Ukrainian. You have to translate it from Ukrainian to English.
I'll be honest, I didn't even know until today that they were based in Ukraine. I thought they were American the whole time.
Well, we learned today, didn't we? We learned. But I gotta say one thing though. These things are cool, and I never even knew that they were from Ukraine. So a win-win, really. But still, why the hell are they lying about that and saying they're from Russia? They're clearly from Ukraine. And also contact us. Where is their contact? Yep, it's in Kyiv. They're from Kyiv. They don't even have an office in Russia. It appears the only other one is outside of Kitchener in Canada. So, you know, it's just a straight up lie. They're from Ukraine. They're not from Russia. Anyways, we're now moving on from that giant rabbit hole about the casualty report and everything going on with it. And with that, it's now time for us to move on from the location unknowns and on into our next bit of news here in the Svatova area, where we saw some Russians doing something very stupid, to say the least. But before we do that, I do have to mention to y'all that it is fundraiser night, and we are trying to blow the World Central Kitchen out of the water. That actually sounds really bad. We're trying to blow the fundraiser for World Central Kitchen out of the water. So please help us to achieve that goal, and we're getting really close, actually. We've gotten over halfway there to $2.6 thousand on tonight's fundraiser. Yeah! And so, Matthew, if you could, take us through the top donors that have made that possible tonight.
All right. So thus far, we have a $100 donation from Malachite. We have a 100 from Terrence Custer. We also have one from B.R. Bowden, Bill Franz, let's see here, Jaroslav, as well as Dr. No. Then we have a 75 from Greg Carrier. We have a 50 from Super Bunker 9000. We also have one from Avari Mendubratis, Rick Collis, and also Gregory Kane. And those are the top donors for the moment. And like the Enforcer said, we're at 2.6 thousand of the $5,000 goal. So we are getting there slowly but surely, but I'm confident we'll reach it like always. And Enforcer, what say you about those top donors?
I say that these top donors are absolutely incredible. And I got to thank them so much once again. And I got to thank everyone that we weren't able to call out as well for helping this fundraiser to get this far. It's at $2.7 thousand now. We just went up to 2.7. And we are still making ground towards 5K. And I'm just wondering, everyone, can we reach 5K? Can everyone contribute to get us over the top to this fundraiser? Right now, at this moment, we've raised about $720,000 in support of Ukraine. If we are able to complete this fundraiser tonight at $5,000, we'll have raised $725,000 in support of Ukraine. And now we're up to 2.9. Let's go! Totoro! Yeah! Yeah! And now they're coming in. They're coming in. Also, wait a minute. I gotta see this. Why do you say? Oh, yeah, you're telling that. I saw a bot earlier. Oh yeah, the guy who said Ukrainian lies, and then you put in like 9 million exclamation marks. Jeez. Wait, hang on. Oh, this guy was just going to town. Man, you should have told me about that bot so that we could have harassed him off the stream. That would have 3,000. Let's go! Yeah! Oh! And I'm about to blow out my vocal cords doing that, but still, thank you all so much once again for donating to tonight's fundraiser. I already put in my $100, but of course, YouTube deprived me of the ability for y'all to actually see it was me, so it was just an anonymous donation, which really sucks. I'm gonna, real quick, wait a minute, hang on. I'm gonna test this out. I'm gonna try that again, but what the hell? Wait a minute, hang on. Okay, so this is weird. When I click other, and I put in a custom amount, like $100, it doesn't allow me to click the box. But if I click on the $20 option, it allows me to click on and off the box. Isn't that messed up?
That's weird.
Matthew's quiet as hell tonight. Jeez, like that's like I'm like, dang.
I don't know what you want me to say.
No,
Sort of leave me on these like statements here.
But here, let me I'm gonna throw in another 20 because I feel like it was kind of lame that it wouldn't show my name on the 100 one. So I'm gonna throw in a 20. So real quick, there we go. It should be popping up here in a second. And boom. There we go. Finally, I got one with my name on it. It just only took 120 bucks. Anyways, let's get on into the polls because we've had some really interesting ones tonight, and a lot of y'all have had interesting comments as well.
All right, and thus far we've had one poll, and the question is, which is correct regarding an execution by rope? Somewhat interesting way to describe a hanging or a hung. But let's see here. It looks like we have even results. 46% said he or she was hung, while 46% said he or she was hanged, while 8% said I'm not sure. So it looks like we don't really have a clear answer here. But maybe the Enforcer would like to enlighten you all on what the correct answer is according to, I can't remember what the source was, but I think we had the correct answer.
1 second. Is it hanged or hung? So we're going to go down to the Merriam-Webster dictionary. We're going to read it off real quick to clear this up, people. Some people bristle when they hear hanged or hung used incorrectly. Their blood boils. Their vision blacks out. Mixing up hung and hanged will make these people thoroughly cheesed and as mad as hell. Rate copy editors are no fun, but you can escape their ire with this simple trick. The standard rule for the past tense of hang is this. In almost all situations, you should use the word hung. I hung a picture of Noah Webster on the wall. After school, she hung out in the library. That line really sounds bad, and it sounds like it's loaded with innuendos. Use hanged when referring to a person being suspended by a rope around the neck until dead. The Salem witches were not burned, they were hanged. Just as Wargrove ordered Edward Seton to be hanged by the neck until dead. It's not that simple, however. Most usage guides reserve hang for people subjected to death, which means if an inanimate object is suspended from the gallows, the correct term is hung. Despised by the boaters, he was hung in effigy. A stripped-down version of why we have these two different words is that the word hang came from two different versions of Old English, which sounds a lot like Dutch. One of these Old English, and I believe it's actually Flemish. Anyways, one of these Old English verbs that was what we might think of as a regular verb, and this gave the rise to hanged. The other was irregular and ended up becoming hung. Hanged and hung were used interchangeably for hundreds of years, although over time the one from the irregular verb eventually became the more common one. Hanged retained its position when used to refer to death by hanging, possibly due to being favored by judges who were passing a sentence. However, both forms are commonly found, and both are commonly found used in either sense. So the correct term through all that is hanged for someone being executed by rope until they're strangled to death or their necks.
And it's kind of shocking to me because I thought it was hung the entire time.
Well,
like the guy got hung. I didn't think it was like hanged. For some reason, that sounds like incorrect grammar.
Well, you see, the reason why we actually brought this up on stream is because Matthew and my mom flamed me because I was talking about someone getting hanged for some reason upstairs. Oh yeah, I was talking about these two guys who blew up some prison in London in like the 1870s and ended up getting hanged for it. But anyways, they clowned on me for saying hanged. They laughed at me. They mocked me. And so I had to pull up the Merriam-Webster dictionary to prove them wrong because it is in fact hanged. I don't know how in the hell you're hunging someone by the gallows. They were hunged. It doesn't sound right. Anyways,
Hung is already past tense.
That's, well, yeah, but then you got to add the ed onto it. Anyways, with that, we are on to the next poll.
All right, so that was our last poll for now, but we do have a few very generous donations that we must go over real fast. Up first, we have a $500 donation, very tremendous, from Dutch R. Jen, and thank you very much for that. And also, we have a $250 from Nicholas Conder. We have a $200 from Brendan Henderson, a $150 from James Reyes, and a $50 from Santiago Flores. And a lot of those people are channel legends. Actually, I think all of them are. So thank you very much to all 5 or 6 of you. I can't do math very well, please forgive me. But thank you all for the very generous support of the fundraiser. We're up to $4.3 thousand.
Let's go! Join me, Matthew. Yeah! Yeah! Wait a minute, Matthew. Let me turn to our principal from school every single time he would get on the microphone. You know what I'm about to do. Get off that seat over there. Anyways, it's that we are on to the next poll.
Next poll. That was our last one though, just a minute ago. But anyways, I saw Hokey Redneck say you guys are from the South, and I saw him say a second ago, who says hung? Who said strung up? Huh. Definitely a different way to say that. What are you thinking, Forcer?
I don't think that's I don't know about that. I've always been saying hanged. I've never said the other one. But with that, we are on to the next. We're on to the next poll.
Right. So the next poll. He keeps saying the next poll. We're out of polls, Enforcer. We are totally out for now.
Come up with one. Just come up with the numbers. Like, just come up with a question and everything. Just another one, dang it, another one. I'm just
All
kidding.
right,
Let's get
so
to the questions.
we're on to our questions, and first up, we have the Morse code being deciphered by many newcomers tonight and some old guards. JP's RC's, Mark Hodges, CFA, WFTU, and Cliff Simonson. And also, welcome to the 2 newcomers who have figured out the Morse. I think JP's RC's figured it out first, actually, so congrats. They all say, Enforcer Matt, the Morse code is Everyone having, excuse me, is everyone having a happy New Year's so far?
Yes, I think everyone's having a happy New Year's, and I hate to project onto everyone, but everyone ought to be having a good one. Now, I do have to say this though, because this is something that's still kind of weighing on me from the beginning of the 10-minute countdown. I was like, dang, I was like, that's sad. A lot of y'all know Pack Rat, who watches the stream all the time. For some reason, I don't even understand why he got on tonight, considering what I'm about to tell y'all. He got on and said, hey, y'all, it's great to be here. I'm only going to be around for a short while because last night I actually had a mild heart attack and I'm in the hospital right now. And when he said that, I was like, man, I feel really sorry for you. And I was like, that's absolutely terrible. My second thought was, you need to take a day off and just not watch the stream and just get better. But I want y'all to all, the point of me saying this is I want all of y'all to wish Pack Rat, because I don't know if he's still watching right now or not, a get well soon, because, that's terrible to hear that he had a mild heart attack on New Year's Eve. That's like one of the worst times to have a mild, well, it's never a good time to have a mild heart attack, no matter what time of year, but it's a really lame time to get a mild heart attack on a holiday like Christmas, Thanksgiving, New Year's, or the 4th of July, or something like that. So if everyone could wish Pack Rat a Happy New Year, I bet a Happy New Year, and also would get better from the mild heart attack, I bet he would feel pretty good for that, considering I think he may have missed out on that last night. But with that, we are going to be moving on to the next question.
Right. And the next question goes to Malachite, who says, Enforcer, could Ukraine start the next offensive with a drone swarm attack?
A drone, it's not going to be like the drone swarms that a lot of people think about, where it's like a big packed up group of drones right on top of each other and they're flying around like a flock of birds. It's going to be, if it's drones, it's going to be kind of like how modern aircraft are used, pretty spaced out in terms of how big they are and the density of how many there are in a single area. It'll be fairly spaced out, but I don't really think they're going to start off with a swarm. I think they're just going to be used wherever effective, kind of like how we don't start off offensives anymore with massive artillery barrages like we did in the First World War. Artillery is only fired when it's on a specific pinpoint target. So in a way, yes, but in other ways, in like the literal sense, not really. And so with that, let's get on to the final question of this segment, and then we're going to get into the next bit of news.
You're right. And also, folks, if you have a question, I do need some more. So feel free to @Enforcer Matt and send me your question, because after this, I only have 7 more. So send yours in, and it's a good chance we'll get around to answering it tonight. But up next for our final one, we have a question from Videshi Baba, who says, Enforcer, the Russians weren't apologizing for so-called collateral damage. Why the hell are Denis ND, a high-ranking American military, apologizing for them?
Dennis who?
It says, like Denny, like with 2 N's, SND. I'm not really sure who that is.
I don't know who that is either, and I haven't heard of anyone in the United States apologizing on Ukraine's behalf for anything. So I think I'm going to have to declare ignorance on that question and have to move on to the next one, just because I don't really know much about that particular situation. But do we have another one we could pull on, Matthew, since that was kind of just like a ignorance declared question?
Yes, we have one more, and this one is from Joe Berta, who says, Enforcer and Matt, how many risky tanks does Russia have left?
From what we know, they probably only have about 500 left that are usable and on the field right now. And out of Russia, there's of course thousands of tanks that are inside of storage facilities that are hardly operational. Will take a decent amount of effort to even get running. So they could always be adding tanks to their fleet, but they're going to be incredibly old, they're going to be incredibly ineffective, and they're not going to change the situation much. So in terms of the real situation, probably only a couple of hundred more left until they run out completely. So with that, I hope that answers that question fairly well. And now it's time for us to move on into the northeastern area and show y'all something that I thought the Russians were doing today that it was absolutely genius. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, yeah. Sorry, it wasn't in SFW. They had like that little veil thing over it, and I was like, uh-oh. I was like, what did it get marked for? I want you to see this, Matthew. Make sure to pay great attention to this, because this is going to blow you away.
Oh.
What the hell is he doing? What is he doing? Like, that is a live show.
Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 IQ points this guy has.
No. I mean, I can count the IQ points. Like I'm looking in his head right now. You know the Windows screensaver that used to bounce around from the edges of the screen?
Yeah, that used to drive me crazy.
That's his only brain cell. It's bouncing around inside of his little head, trying to figure out what to do, and it came up with this. Oh my god! There are so many things that you could have used instead of an artillery shell. And look at him. Look at that stupid look on his face, like he just did something good.
Oh.
And what the hell is up with the belts? Why in the world does he look like he's wearing like some kind of a designer suit in like Milan? Oh my god! I can't get over it. Stupidest video I've seen yet. And this guy's smug, stupid look on his face really tops the whole thing off, because he didn't just do this like because he thought he had no other options. He did this because he thought it was smart or something. And what's even worse is that everyone just stood around and watched him do it. Like, just watch. Like, there's a guy behind him just watching, like, oh, this is neat. The cameraman's watching, like, oh, this is cool. Also, I like this one here, because he looks like some stupid Disney animatronic that just got all out of whack right here. Look.
Seriously.
He almost fumbled it where the front end would actually hit the little pin itself.
Oh man,
that stupid look gets me every time, though. Oh my god, I don't know how to explain this look. Someone needs to make that a meme. Like, someone needs to just make this guy a meme, like with the whole super tight belt around his waist. Like, it looks like it's cutting off circulation to the rest of his body with how tight it is. That thing's a tourniquet already. Like, when he gets shot below, like, the waist, someone's gonna run up, oh my god, you're not bleeding. Oh yeah, that's because they've had no circulation down them for like 2 weeks. This guy's just stupid. This must be one of those, like, what do they call them? Mentally deficient people that the Russians are always talking about are being sent to the front with them. We have mentally ill people here. He's one of them, man. He's gotta be. He's a menace. Like, with the fashion and also that shell. So with that, we're going to be moving on from this little bit of news, but, you know, I just got to show y'all what the Ukrainians are going up against. And we're now going to be moving it down the churn of Makiivka, because today things were popping off in Makiivka. So let's watch this video of the Russians getting blown away. They got a whole crowd watching.
О, еще один. Ой-ой-ой. То, что им надо было.
Wait, who in the world is listening to "Can't Stop, I Got to Try to Do the Sickness"? Like, who in the world is listening to that back there? I just heard that faintly in the background.
Ох, один в лесу.
Yeah, it's playing.
Туда, куда надо. Вот туда в лес, блядь.
They got a soundtrack for the artillery barrage.
О, хорошо пошло, кого-то кто-то сдох, сука. Пидоры сдыхают, смотри, хорошо, лягло, бля, ебать. Валера, засекай, полетів, стали. А ти кажеш, що сам. Гради хорошо. Мені ж гранату,
Ох, туда, прямо туда.
Вот кто там они сдохли? Нет, это краб. Это краб, ну по-любому там сдохли. Там без разговора,
Man, this is something. Just look at this, Vadim. Look at this. Also, we were only $500 away from the $5,000 goal. Like, that's crazy.
That is.
But
Very fast, actually.
Very quickly, actually. Very, very quickly. But with this is the end of the video. And of course, Can't stop addicted to the sickness. And
Copyright strike.
yeah, we're about to get copyrighted so badly. And so with that, we're going to be moving on into the next clip a little bit further down and in the area of Kremenna. But before we get to it, I have seen some people saying some things about the shell and how it wasn't really dangerous in the live chat to be doing that. And I have to disagree respectfully. Let me explain why. We see a lot of people are saying that there is nothing explosive in this shell, it's just solid steel. That's not true. High explosive is filled with nothing but explosive filler. And you can see this every single time a cutaway model is ever made of a high explosive artillery shell. This yellow stuff in there that looks like banana flavored Laffy Taffy is nothing but high explosive filler. And so if the fuse right there hits if the fuse is active and then it hits anything at a fast enough speed with enough force, it will explode. The guy was using the blunt end of the thing, but at the same time, it just never seems smart to use what's pretty much a sizable bomb to hit stuff with. That always seems very stupid at its premise, and I feel like it kind of is, even if it is the flat end. Because what if, let's say, that guy fumbled it and he dropped it in an odd way and that fuse was active for some reason and it hit something? He just blew everyone up and the SPG as well. Not a smart move at all. But then again, you can see more pictures of high explosive shells. This one here with all the filling in it. I wonder, Matthew, if anyone plays a prank, considering that that's filling. I wonder if anyone fills these shells with cream filling, like a jelly-filled donut.
I mean, that'd probably be better if you're banging it on the side of a tank like that.
Private Pile, what is this? A jelly artillery shell? What the hell? How'd you even get that? Also, here's another thing that's cool, just in case y'all don't know how these work. This is an APFS-DS shell and how it works. It fits in a casing, kind of like a normal HE shell. You can see that the rear of it looks normal. But when it's fired, this thing travels down the barrel. It's incredibly small. It's very narrow compared to the barrel. And then everything behind it, except for this dart-shaped thing inside of it, all just goes flying off. And what's left is this dart. And it has a pretty decent amount of penetration in these things. I think they can go through like 900 millimeters of homogeneous steel, which is like several feet of the stuff. But yeah, that's a little bit of a quick rundown on why I still would not use a high explosive shell to hit anything, because although it's just the backside of it and it won't blow up from that, it's still a giant bomb, and that's pretty scary to me. Anyways, we're going to be moving on to the next bit of news in the Kremenna area, where we saw a video that got put out by Radio Free Europe about the Ukrainians in the area. But I couldn't really put my finger on it, whether we had seen this video before or not. So I'm going to play it again, and if we have, Matthew, let me know. And if the live chat has seen this before, let me know, because we'll move on if so. But here's the video.
Чим вони стратегічно важливі? Через ці села проходять логістичні маршрути ворога. А як ми знаємо, що логістика – це перше, тобто, воїн, який не забезпечений, він не зможе воювати.
Там есть развязка ЖД, и это очень сильно нарушит их логистику. И тогда, я думаю, они от Бахмута отступят.
Ворог повинен усвідомлювати, що ми йдемо, ми несемо загрозу.
I think we have seen this before. I'm just waiting for the live chat.
I can't really remember.
I swear I've seen this before, because I remember this guy standing in front of a Nona, but yeah, as Gonzo says in an old video. So we're going to be moving on for this. Sorry, everyone. I could not remember for the life of me today if we had seen it before or not. I felt like it was very uncanny to one we had seen, but I was like, maybe it's a little bit different, but it is the exact same one. So with that, we're going to be moving on out of the northeastern area. Of course, not much is happening up here as normal, except for Russian idiots doing idiotic things. And so we're now going to be moving down into the Vesely area, where we saw some more student fire.
Суша стоїть рядом.
Танками первая бэха, еще одна.
А вот та, что стоит вдоль, блядь, есть танк.
Есть. Да, хорошо, полетел.
Hang on.
А где там?
Oh! I located it! This is in, I think, the location unknowns, and I located it a little bit later on making the news, and once again forgot to put the stupid thing where it was supposed to belong and get rid of the old one in the location unknown. But we actually located this into the Bakhmut Frontline area where this tank was blown up. So, once again, nice to know. It's good to know that this thing is probably the world record for a turret toss, and with that, we're moving on down into Soledar, where we got some drone footage today of what Soledar looked like on the 1st of January, the new year. Also, I got to mute it because they're playing this music from Gladiator. But we see them looking out into the distance, and as rays of sunlight come through the clouds, you can see that the entire area is covered in smoke. Most of the buildings have been destroyed, and it's an absolute hellhole down there, looking like the Somme or Passchendaele or the Argonne. Whatever front line from the First World War you want to imagine, it looks just like that.
That's pretty crazy, though. Like one hole in the sky where the sun's shining down.
Yeah, it looks kind of like a flashlight being shined onto the ground.
Shone.
Oh, no,
Back to the
whatever.
hang/hung.
Whatever. Shined. Let's pull that up. Is it shined or shone?
That's what you do when you make a liquor. That's moonshined.
Oh, get out of here. Is shined a word? Shine. Past tense, shined. Get the hell out of here. What the hell is shone?
See, it says shone right there. The sun shone through the window. You see? Look.
Where? I don't see that.
They use it in a little sentence.
Uh,
Up one. There you go.
Of the sun or another. The sun shone through the window. That just
It
sounds
shone.
stupid. That just shone. That sounds so dumb. I'm gonna say shined. That sounds better. I like it. Anyways, we're gonna be moving on. Tonight's like the Wikipedia Webster Dictionary night for some reason, but we're gonna be moving on from the Soledar area and down towards Bakhmut, where we saw a Wagner soldier get hit. I'm it. Also call back to JFK here. JFK kind of vibes. We see him running to his little spot, and it looks like he took a nap. So with that, that's the end of the video, but the Wagner unit, once again, they're not doing good. We're now going to be moving into Bakhmut, where we also see Russian artillery landing on the town earlier this morning. Also, we're going to have to mute that. We see the artillery landing in Bakhmut there. A very large barrage, once again in the same area we've seen before, and as we've watched the weeks go by, this area has gotten more and more damaged, worse so each and every time. But of course, at the end of this video, the Ukrainians have to say it's still standing strong, and it is, funnily enough. The Russians didn't even move a single foot forward today in the Bakhmut line, and we can see here on Deep State UA, which I'll take y'all down here, and also, let me click that little ornament. What does this do? Oh, look, it shows Christmas messages from all the units. That's neat. So, anyways, we're going to move down to Bakhmut, right around here. We're going to put this back in time one day, and then up one day. Look at that. Do you see any changes on this front line, Matthew?
If there is, like, it's hardly noticeable.
There was not a single change. They didn't move a foot or a meter. They didn't move a single inch. And the Ukrainians have held the line incredibly well today. And so, of course...
Let's see. At this rate, what we say last night, if they were moving at, like, what was it, an inch per day, it would be maybe, like, 2060. I guess we'll be dead by the time the war's over.
We'll probably just see that the Russians will finally have taken Bakhmut by the year 2077. And the year 2077, what makes someone a criminal? Getting caught. Anyways... With that, we're going to be moving on into the next bit of news from Bakhmut further down, where we saw that Vladimir Klitschko, the former heavyweight champion of the world, visited the soldiers in Kyiv.
Бахмут, це Україна.
We can't get copyrighted for that, can we?
I said go for it anyway.
Yeah. Nice.
Oh,
rifle.
wow.
Wow. This man knows where the action is. Like, he's...
W cameraman.
Hang on one second. I gotta pull this up. I always think of this every time I see someone do something that you don't really expect, but let me go find it. Yeah, this is it. Let me see if I can find one that's... let me see. One second. Can I just get the picture? One second, Matthew. I got to get this thing. Dang it! It's not gonna let me get the picture. So sadly, that meme has completely fallen flat. I would have used it, but I can't pull it up and show it to y'all, so it would mean nothing. Anyways, we're gonna get back to the video. And these guys are actually really good.
Why is this guy being nosy and showing all their stuff?
Dude, he's like a player in a cutscene. Like when the cutscene's going on, he's just walking around the room, just looking at everything else. Also, nice flag. Mort? Wait, did you hear that, Matthew? King John! I love you, King John! Who was that?
God.
Who was that? I want to know who that was. That was actually kind of funny. This was
Четверта бригада. Національна
Man,
гвардія
Klitschko is huge.
Yeah.
Бахмут. Хлопці, які боронять нашу неньку Україну кожного дня, захищаючи територіальну цілісність, незалежність і мир кожного з українців. І зроблять все для того, щоб наступний рік, 23-й, був роком миру. Щоб кожен, хто прийшов зі зброєю, покинув нашу територію вперед ногами. Слава Україні! Героям слава! Україна! Понад усе! Слава нації! Смерть ворогам! Разом! І до кінця!
And that's
I have a feeling that nobody f's around with Klitschko. That guy seems like he's controlling like the whole atmosphere. Like that guy's a unit.
He's just there and he's like, "Oh, hey, how are you doing? I'm not doing that. What do you mean? I'm doing great. Good." It's like that's almost how you like. Honestly, man, like how tall he is. Like I feel like the two guys in front of him. Like after this video's done, he just picks them up and just moves them out of the way. Oh, excuse me, sorry, I have to get through. And he's just like picking up people and moving them around and stuff. Man, that guy is a giant. Like, I never realized that, but this guy is huge. I'd be scared as hell to be around him in real life. This guy could just murder you. Like just fit, like, with his fists.
He could. No wonder he had a successful career, too.
Yeah. And then Tyson Fury, I know your moves. They're predictable. They're predictable. And that's the only reason. Like, I don't know. Sadly, Klitschko was, like, the guy for, like, a whole decade nearly. But then Tyson Fury came in, got in his head, and that was the only reason he's not the heavyweight champion of the world anymore. And then didn't Tyson Fury get beat sometime around?
I think he did at one point. And then he went into that like dark depression for a while, and then he came back.
Yeah, you know, that I remember watching that video, Matthew. I think you and me have actually talked about that before. You know, the one where he was talking about like, the car and the bridge and everything. But anyways, with that
was kind of weird.
Yeah, it was kind of weird. But anyways, we're going to be moving on from that little clip and further on down the front line because, of course, nothing happened in Bakhmut today beyond that. We're now going to be moving down into Donetsk and skipping the ammunition depot, which we looked at earlier. And we're going to be going to Kamyanka, where we saw a grenade do a little magic trick. Y'all want to see a magic trick? 1 second. When the Ukrainians drop a grenade on a truck, everyone looks at it and they go, "Wow, that's impressive." And in society, they like it. We can see a Russian running down to this truck. It appears to be having a bit of an oil leak or a gas leak, and we can now see a bomblet being dropped onto it, and it exploded on one side of the street. We now see the Russian climbing right back out of the truck and deciding to run away, which is a smart idea, but it now looks like the drone has switched targets. This man is turned into Forrest Gump. I just started running. And there he goes. He's going over to the fields. But you now see that he's gotten a little tired. He's not running anymore. Man, some of these guys don't need to skip leg day and cardio because some of them can't run like at all. Like they run about as much as I can, and that's not good. Not good at all. Not good at all, dang it. But with that, that's the end of the video, and it's nice to see the Ukrainians were always keeping a little bit of heat on the Russians on New Year's. Of course, a great day to stay warm. We're now going to be moving out of the Donetsk area as well, because beyond that, not much happened there. By the way, everyone, we are only $200 away from our $5,000 goal tonight. And so, if y'all would join me real quick, because I think it's time for it. I think it is. We're going to call up a general order. Of course, let me go.
Oh?
And I've already put in a decent amount tonight. But I'm going to put in a third round of donation tonight. It would be another $20. And I ask that y'all all join me as I call up General Order number 8. If you have $5 to put it in now! We're going to get this thing over 5K and on into space. So real quick, let me throw in my next 20. Let's see here. Donate. The General Order is in effect. Throw in your $5 as you got it. I put in a 20. That'll get us on up there. And let's get it! So with that, we're now moving on to the next bit of news in the southern front in Pavlivka, where we saw that a drone operator spotted a Russian encampment. Have you ever wanted to destroy yourself?
That was that music.
Yeah. Listen to that again.
Would you like a Ford truck? Would you like it delivered tomorrow? Well, you're not going to get it because they don't come off the assembly line fast enough.
Oh, we reached 5K! Let's go! Let's go! Yeah! We did it. We finally did it. I gotta thank y'all all so much once again for being here tonight and helping us to reach this goal. Absolutely amazing. And of course, it wouldn't have been possible without all of you. And we've gotten all the way up to 5.2?
With $5, how'd that happen? That doesn't, I don't know math well, but that doesn't add up. How'd that work?
Man, I'm not smart at math, but let me think real quick. Hell, it's the least spring on me. Anything's possible. But still, thank y'all all so much once again for getting us over the goal. We've actually just gotten $400 at this point from the General Order alone. So, nuts. Absolutely insane. But anyways, I'm actually going to allow the music to play in this one because I feel like it'd be funny. Even if we do get content ID'd for it. So, have you ever wanted to hit the Russian positions like there's nothing in the world that could be blown away as easily? Well,
yes.
You've come to the right place. Introducing the brand new Smart Shell, able to explode above enemy fortifications and make sure that they look like a scrambled egg by the end of it.
Oh.
Make sure to wear Carhartt jeans while you're doing this job because only the roughest and toughest farmhands can get around in this kind of dirty business.
Hell yeah.
Sponsored by Ford. I'm just kidding. We're not sponsored by Ford.
No, we're not.
We're not sponsored by Ford. Oh, we are legally obligated to say we are not sponsored by Ford. But
You're
still,
not affiliated with a Ford or Associates. Thank you.
But still, quite nice. Quite nice. And it looks like the Russians, they want fire. And so with that, going to be moving on from this area, the southern front. Oh, southern front, my southern front. And we're going to be moving all the way down to Vasilivka, because in between Volodar and Vasilivka, nothing's happened today. We haven't seen anything occur. The front line has not moved at all. And in the Kherson area, the same thing can be said as well. And so y'all aren't going to believe it. But we are on, without further ado, and just at the perfect time as well, while we're reaching $5.6 thousand raised to the speech from President Volodymyr Zelensky on January 1st of 2023. And so, here is the address.
Бажаю здоров'я, шановні українці. Новий рік, новий день, нові підсумки. 45 шахедів збито у першу ніч року. Дякую нашим повітряним силам, льотчикам, зенітникам. 33 шахеди на їхньому рахунку. Дякую протиповітряній обороні наших сухопутних військ за ще 12 збитих іранських дронів. Просто молодці, хлопці. Російські терористи, як були жалюгідними, такими зайшли у цей рік. Наші захисники, як були молодці, так і 1 січня себе показали дуже добре. Знаєте, цими днями було видно максимально, як далеко ми відійшли ментально, просто по-людськи від того, в чому вариться Росія. Наше з вами відчуття єдності, справжності, самого життя – це все так контрастує зі страхом, який запанував в Росії. Вони бояться, це відчувають і правильно бояться, бо вони програють. Дрони, ракети, всі інші їм не допоможе, бо ми разом, а вони хіба що разом зі страхом. І жоден рік, а вони у України не заберуть нашої незалежності. Ми нічого їм не віддамо. Я дякую всім, хто цієї ночі щодня б'є ворога на фронті. На кожен російський удар по Херсону, Нікополю, по Харківщині, по усім нашим містам і громадам ми, окупантам, відповідаємо дуже відчутно для них. Я дякую всім нашим енергетикам, комунальникам за стабільне енергопостачання і мінімум відключень, враховуючи всі наявні обставини. Всюди, де лінії передачі та інші енергооб'єкти пошкоджені обстрілами, відновлення триває цілодобово. Сьогодні також, і дуже важливо, як всі українці цієї новорічної ночі підживили внутрішню енергію, і як ми дякували нашим воїнам, як ми дякували близьким, як мільйон разів по всій Україні, по всьому вільному світу звучало і звучить досі наше з вами побажання. Побажання перемоги. Зробимо все, щоб так і було. Слава усім нашим воїнам, слава кожному і кожній, хто працює на перемогу України. Слава Україні!
With that is the end of the speech.
Real quick, I wonder where he's at when he films the ones like with just the blank background. Like, is he in his like bunker, like bedroom or something?
Honestly, Matthew, I've got it. Oh, hang on. Let me pull it up. Every time I see that blank background, I'm always thinking about one of those cafeterias that were at the bottom of the Smithsonian buildings. Like, it looks like that. Hang on, let me try and find the right one. Because there was one in one of the Smithsonian museums. This one. I feel like he just found like a wall somewhere in like a cafeteria and he just started filming the video. Because every once in a while you hear like silverware clanking a little bit in the background, or someone walking around, or lights shutting off or something. And I'm always like imagining in my head he's somewhere like here and he's sitting there like with people just eating around him and stuff in the distance going, we will make sure to keep winning, we're going to push them back, the Ukrainians are a great country, we're a great people, we have values, and he's just in the middle of the cafeteria, but I don't really know where that is, and of course we'll probably never find out because it's an OPSEC thing, but still, it's always so funny to me to see the blank background because it looks so unassuming. Like, everything about it does not give you the idea that there would be like a good speech coming around when that happens, but it does. But with that, we are going to be moving on from that question and on into our polls, if there are any at all, because I have not been able to pay attention enough to see if there were any polls up, but I'm sure if there were, they were absolutely excellent. And so with that, what do we got, Matthew?
We do have one poll, and the poll says, was it dangerous for the Russian to use the HE shell as a hammer? And we have results on that one. Kind of interesting results, actually. Only 59% said yes, it can explode. 24% said unsure, and 17% said no, it was not dangerous. Now, to me, unless that was like a deactivated shell or something, I would say that's definitely dangerous. Even if it wasn't necessarily like really possible or likely, you still don't want to do that just to play it safe, especially considering you could just use Ivan's head next door as the hammer instead. Because, but anyways, Enforcer, what say you?
I would say that I think that's pretty dangerous. I'm not really one to fling around explosives because, that's like using a claymore to drive a nail. That doesn't make any sense at all, and that just seems very dangerous for no real reason. So I would have to say, in my opinion, pretty dangerous. And also, I hope everyone saw the pictures I showed of the cutaways of these shells. They're not solid steel. Like that's something that's interesting to me, is that a lot of people think that these shells are solid steel, yet we watch them on film explode and they have a radius about the width of a football field. These things are filled with explosive filler. That's how we get shrapnel. Otherwise, this would just be some giant hunk of a solid object just flying through the air. Really wouldn't do a lot of damage, well, as much as it could. Also, there is one artillery piece, I will give y'all this. There is one artillery piece I can think of that did use a solid shell. Let me go find it. Let's see, I can't say it because I'll give it away. Yeah, here we go. The 19th century cannon in Syria. This was something that came about, I believe, in 2019. Some Syrian rebels, the SDF that we back up, got into a museum and they stole the cannon and they used it. I'm going to show y'all this because it's insane.
Why is there a hydraulic ram hooked up to it?
I have no idea because it's not even really doing anything for it.
Oh, wait a minute. That's actually somewhat ingenious. So go back a little bit. They have the hydraulics. They typically like lift up a crate or something, like where they can move it up and down, like and aim it.
Yeah, they do. Oh my god, that's actually pretty freaking smart. Now watch what it does.
damn.
You wouldn't expect that from that gun.
No.
Well, from that cannon, more like. In one of them, you can actually see the cannonball. Yeah, right there, you can see it.
That's like, I don't know. I mean, to me, that's kind of interesting. It's like old school mixed with new school. It's weird.
I mean, that's just insane to see like an 1800s gun from the 19th century in action in the modern world. Now, let me see if I can find y'all another video of this. Let me take this back off screen and go find another one, because one of them. Okay, so this one, believe it or not, show you how prevalent the Funker 530 channel is. Once again, is from Funker 530. But let me show you all this one because it's on a different building, and this one was also equally wild. So here it is. You can actually see the cannonball the entire time. Watch, Matthew, watch this. There it goes.
Oh my goodness.
Like
that thing caused some damage.
That's
crazy.
Like people always sleep on older technology, but it's still crazy to me to think that a cannon from the 19th century can do that kind of damage. I would say, honestly, it's not that far away from some of the modern smaller guns we still use now. It's just that it's using a solid shell.
I guess the only catch is you gotta like transport like heavy, like freaking huge metal balls around to put inside the cannon.
That's true. Oh my god, look, it's blown away like a whole wall. I gotta be honest with you, it's just insane to see this thing operating, you know? Like, that's just bizarre.
Are you sure they didn't pack some kind of explosive inside of that? Because that's an explosion happening.
Wait a minute, did you see this one? It's a chain ball. No way, no way. Dude, they put in a lot of effort into that. That was a chain shot. Look at this, watch. You can see it's two balls connected together with like some kind of a link or a chain or something. Look at that. Okay, so...
No, they've got some kind of explosive in that because there's no way it explodes without some kind of explosive.
So 1 second, let me pull this up. This is not really chain shot. I guess this is... Here we go, this is what I'm talking about. They made a bigger version of chain shot like they used to use in the age of sail to hit that building with. And also, they are exploding. It looks like there's some kind of explosive filler in these things. But these are the only ones I could think of, at least in the other video that we saw, that were using solid projectiles, because those were just leaving almost perfectly round holes in the building. This one's actually exploding onto it. This is the craziest thing to watch. I can't believe they actually did this. And what year was this in? 2019? No, actually, this is in 2021. Bizarre, wild. That's all I have to say about it. But with that, I hope we addressed that fairly well. And let's get on to the next one.
I wonder what the practicality of like a kinetic energy weapon would be. You know how the like concept the rods from gods were supposed to work?
Mm-hmm. I don't think it'd be...
I wonder if you could do that like on the ground, like with a kinetic like ground launched rod or something to sort of achieve the same effect.
I guess you could, but it kind of defeats the purpose of it being kinetic because, you know, the rod god thing was using gravity for the most part. There would really be no way to harness.
You could just use a propellant, like a long rod, and use the propellant to, or I guess you could use electromagnetic like energy to push it along.
So you're just trying to reinvent a gun or a rail gun.
Yeah, I guess a rail gun's what I'm going for.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're working on those right now. It's just that they don't really work all too well because usually the projectile melts before it even leaves I guess you could say the projector.
Have you seen that that like testing that the Air Force has done on the rail with the electromagnetic thing, like going like over 1,000 miles an hour?
I think I have, and I think that thing started to melt,
nuts.
didn't it?
Well, it made that like supersonic boom, and it like hit the end of it. You ought to pull that up and show it. That's pretty cool looking.
So what do you call it again?
It's the Air Force rocket sled, hypersonic.
Oh, I have seen that. Let me pull it up. Air Force rocket sled. Let's see here. So is it the one that has the mock-up F-16 cockpit on top of it, or is it just the one with like the massive amount of rockets strapped to it?
I'm not really sure.
Oh, wait, I found it. I found it. It's 37 seconds long. Here we go. This is it, isn't it?
Oh yeah, this is it. This is it. That's what I'm talking about. Can you put like a rod on that and like send it to a building? All you need is a long ass track.
I wonder. Let's see, this is at half speed. It doesn't show it hitting anything, though. It just shows it going down the track. This thing, according to the caption, was going Mach 8.6.
What about that spooky sound before it like shows up?
I think that it's going so fast, it can't be a sound from the sled itself. I guess it would be the rails vibrating because of the speed of this thing, and that's what's making the sound.
Yeah, that sound though is like legendary. That could rival the A10 sound.
Man. Randy, I got a joke. I don't know. Everyone strap in for this one. I'm sure y'all are gonna get a kick out of this.
I know what it's about to be already.
Oh, what is it?
When you need to get across town fast, and this is what you do.
No. You sit there, and your girlfriend says, "Come on over." You say, "I can't. I'm busy. I'm home alone."
I was wondering if you're gonna make that joke, but you went for it.
Yeah, I went for it. Hopefully, everyone got a laugh out of that with that in mind. But with that, let's get on to the questions or the polls if we have.
All right.
Some.
So we're still out of polls, but anyways, up next we have a few top donations that we must recognize. And by the way, we're up to 5.8 thousand on the fundraiser, so 800 above goal. Big shout out to I Am for putting in a 100. Also, Simple 1940 for putting in 100 as well. We also have another one from Just Chillin'. Then we have several 50s. The first one is from Gene Kustra, and we have one from Fly Eagles Fly, and also Axel K. So those are the top donations for now, and thank you all very much for that very generous support of the fundraiser. And with that being said, Enforcer, do you have anything to say before we move on to the questions?
Yes, I do. I got to thank y'all all so much once again for supporting this fundraiser. If it wasn't for every single one of y'all, even everyone that we weren't able to call out because there's just been so many of y'all, I got to thank y'all so much once again for helping this fundraiser to get to where it's gotten. $5.8 thousand. Nothing to be scoffed at all, and a massive amount of support. Based off of our calculations and what some people have said in the live chat, $20 of support is able to feed a whole family a meal. And so going off of that, let's do a little bit of math here. 5.8 thousand divided by 20. We have fed 300 people nearly with this fundraiser alone. So absolutely incredible. And I got to thank the LSA once again for doing their part in helping out in this war effort and helping the World Central Kitchen to keep feeding people in Ukraine. And so with that, thank you all so much once again for supporting this fundraiser tonight. And with that, let's get on into the questions.
All right. So our first question is going to go to Tasman006. Who says, has anyone noticed the Russian propagandists have changed Where is Olga and the citing vodka drinker? Have they gone to the gulag or taking time of?
I don't know. I've seen Olga. I know who you're talking about with Olga. I've seen her doing something in her apartment on video, but I haven't seen her doing anything on television. So I guess they're taking time off, and they're not in a gulag, but I wouldn't doubt it if they end up in prison or a gulag sometime around for some reason or another. But with that, I hope that answers the question fairly well, and also thank you for being here tonight. Holy moly, Bob Hughes threw in a $100 donation, bringing the total up to $5.9 thousand. Nice. And I got to thank you so much for that, Bob Hughes. It helps out World Central Kitchen a whole load. And so with that, also, I want to make sure to thank Tasman for being a legend and being here tonight. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right. And up next, we have a question from Oddities, who says, why would the Russians make the ammo dump and the soldiers sleep in the same place?
I don't...
that can be put in the bin of many questions that we need the answer to of why the Russians are so stupid.
We need to just start a whole Q&A segment called Why Do the Russians ... That's it. Or
why do they do what they do?
Or in Britain or anywhere else in the world that's English speaking, it would be, why do the Russians ... But anyways, moving on from that, I don't really know why they would do that, and also we're still waiting for a little bit more information on that, but that may be one of the biggest things that's happened in this war. I'm still kind of skeptical that this happened at a school number 19, because That was a small building. But still, we'll be keeping an eye on it and seeing if we can get any more information. But with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one we have is from Frequency Harmonic, who says, why isn't Ukraine hitting more troop concentrations like these more often? They are stacking these Mobics somewhere before heading to the front.
That's a great question. And I don't really know why. Maybe it's because they can't really find them much, and they always also don't want to be ending up killing civilians, launching some of their attacks. And that may be one of the main reasons why they're not doing that as much, because like that school, it was almost in a populated area, an urban area, where there would have been no way to hit it without killing civilians and having to call them collateral. So I think that may be the main reason why, is that there's not really a lot of opportune targets like that one was. And so with that, I hope that addresses the question fairly well, and we are on to the next one.
All right, and real quick, shout out to Eric O for putting in a $100 donation to World Central Kitchen. We're now up to $6,000.
Let's go!
And also, yes, and let's go. And up next, we have a donation. It looks like Alan Sanderson's dad, Terry, donated to United 24 directly. So also, thank you to Terry for supporting United 24. I think we still tell people to do that, right? If they're in Australia or something like that, and they won't allow donations.
Yes, we do. And you can pull up United 24 on the internet, and if you go to last night's stream, the link is still in the description below. And also, I have to say to Terry, Matthew, put in reverse, Terry!
I was about to say that too. Oh goodness. He's lucky
man.
his name's Terry, so when he listens to the meme, he feels a personal connection.
Should we pull up that meme, Matthew?
Yes, pull it up.
Oh, Lord!
Terry!
Put it in reverse, Terry. Put in reverse, Terry! Oh, here we go. This is the OG put up 5 years ago.
Bag up, Terry. Put in reverse, Terry. Put in reverse. Oh, Lord. Oh, Lord. Oh, jeez.
Man, poor Terry.
What you doing, Terry?
And no one's gonna help him either.
He's finally scooting.
Man, Terry's leg doesn't work, nor does his ears work anymore.
Man, let's listen to him say "put it in reverse, Terry" one more time.
Terry, put in reverse, Terry.
The famous line. But anyways, with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, so our next question goes to Mr. Clamptastic, who says, Enforcer Matt and Enforcer, how are the ground conditions affecting the progress for the Ukrainians?
The ground conditions are affecting the progress of both sides right now due to the slushy conditions that are being found due to the cold weather not being cold enough, but also it's somewhat of a rainy season still. So there's a lot of Rasputitsa around, which is really hindering a decent amount of both sides' progress. But at the same time, we see that the Ukrainians are waiting until the ground gets I guess you could say more solid during January, February to launch any kind of counteroffensives then. And so with that, I hope that answers the question fairly well and fairly concise. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and up next, we have a question from White Wolf, who says, Enforcer, why does Ukraine not use those same balloons that were used over London in World War II?
Great question. The main reason is that nobody really makes those anymore. And when the Blitz began in Britain, that was something of a decent strategy. Everyone was like, hey, that actually kind of works. We'll make these things just in case a war breaks out. And then when the war broke out, they were like, oh, look, we have a use for it. But nowadays, we don't really think like that. We think, oh, it's going to be some kind of a precision-guided missile. We need a Patriot to shoot it down. So, we'll do that. And also the other thing is that the barrage balloons only have one wire. They don't have anything beyond that. And while that could work against a pilot who was probably trying to pay attention to other things and then would run into that wire, a Shahed flies so slow that it could probably see the balloons and just avoid the underside of them anywhere and not really hit any of them. So I hope that answers the question fairly well, or at least give some reasons why that's not happening. And also, everyone, I'm sorry for yawning a little bit. I don't know if y'all are hearing that. I drank a whole lot less coffee tonight because last night, as y'all could probably tell, I tried to ham up last night as best we could because it was New Year's Eve, and I drank so much coffee that I ended up staying awake until 4 o'clock in the morning against my will. And so I drank a lot less coffee today, so that way I could actually go to sleep after the stream. But with that, we are on to the next one.
All right. And up next, we have a question from Paul Plonsky, who says, do you think Ukraine will be able to recapture Mariupol anytime soon?
I don't think it'll be anytime soon. It will take a while. They'll most likely head in the direction of Tokmak and Melitopol instead of Mariupol because there's more opportunity and a much more advantageous position to be had in that area instead. So I think it'll actually be quite a while, probably over half a year or longer. So with that, I hope that answers the question fairly well, and we're on to the next one.
And we have a question from B.R. Bowden, who says, any news about sending the GLSDB from Boeing and Saab to Ukraine?
The GLSDB, I feel like that's like the ground-launched small-diameter bomb. And how
if you got that right, you got the award of the year.
Yeah,
you got the award of the year.
Oh, well, it looks like we got a dinger. If I was on Wheel of Fortune and that was the word, I would have won the game. Like, I would have just won it right there. Is that a ground-launched small-diameter bomb? Ding, ding, ding. You got it correct. You won the Ford. Get in the Ford. It's got the wobble of death because we got to make sure that you do not leave the studio with that car. But anyways...
What's you know what Saab's motto is, by the way?
What's their motto, Matthew? What's their motto?
Make your enemies sob with Saab.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
No, like it. I think it might be it.
Matthew, are you from Ohio? Because there is so much corn in that statement. That's corny. I gotta say,
that's
actually,
the most normal statement in Ohio.
Completely barring anything happening in Cleveland. Because for some reason, everyone in Ohio hates Cleveland. I don't know why. Like I've heard people from Ohio say, "Oh, Cleveland like sucks." Like the rest of the state, there's nothing to do, but Cleveland sucks. Don't even go to Cleveland. Like I don't even understand because I don't know a lot about Cleveland. I just know that everyone hates Cleveland. Maybe one day.
I don't know why Ohio is getting clowned on so bad in the memes recently. Like everybody's got this song playing behind it. I don't know what the song is from, but they're like they're saying down in Ohio.
I don't know. I think there's got to be something wrong with Ohio. I don't know what it is though, because everyone hates Ohio. Like everyone from outside of Ohio hates Ohio, and then the people inside of Ohio hate Cleveland. So I don't know. I don't know what's up with that. Bill O'Jeans just said Cleveland rocks. You must be, let's see, I hate Cleveland. I'm from, Stephen L. just said, I hate Cleveland. I'm from Toledo. That also said, that, you know, for some reason, Toledo is like a fantasy town to me. Like, for some reason, that name just feels like it's from fantasy. Like, that's crazy to think there's a Toledo Bay and also a Toledo, Ohio. I don't know why that's just weird to me, but like, do you get that feeling from Toledo, Matthew? Like, it's just like a town from, like, 50s sitcom television that just didn't really exist, but they just kept bringing it up?
Like, I guess maybe. I you know, like, weirdly enough, it's going to sound, like, weird as hell, but every time I hear Toledo, I think of the people that make those, like, you know, those deli scales that, like, weigh out the deli meat?
Yes.
It says Toledo scales. I think of that for some reason. I don't know why.
I don't really know why either, man. You might want to get some help on that. I'm just kidding. It's still, man.
Somebody said Toledo Steel, so I'm not the only one. They're thinking about industries too.
I mean, you know, that's interesting, but still, Steven still backs it up though. He is from Ohio and he hates Cleveland. By the way, y'all are actually supposed to get this little strip up here, this little area, you know, where for some reason, if you notice, Matthew, Michigan's border is a straight line until it gets to here, and then it takes a sharp southward direction and then goes straight again, all the way until it gets to Lake Erie. The whole reason that was done is because Andrew Jackson in the 1829 election wanted Michigan to vote for him, so he gave them the Toledo Bay. And then for some reason...
That sounds like bribery.
Yeah, it kind of was. You know,
bribery in plain sight. Nobody even questioned it.
Well, a lot of people actually did question it. In fact, Ohio and Michigan went to war, and like 29 people got killed. Yeah. So
never mind then.
So, you know, it was kind of a thing. It was kind of a little bit of a thing. Anyways, we are on to the. Also, Matthew, have you noticed that a lot of people are hanging out tonight, like just listening to all these funny stories and just looking at the videos? Like, it seems like a lot of y'all are really enjoying this.
Yes, they're hanging around as they're like, this is an interesting mental case to study here. Let's keep listening.
Yeah, they're you got all the people from like the sanatoriums, like, how does that make you feel? You know, like doing that every time we say something.
Yes.
Anyways,
they're in here poking us with questions. What do you think about this, good sir? And they're like, let's see how he responds. What's he say?
Also, Matthew, Heather Fitzgibbon said Andrew Jackson was an ass. And I would have to kind of agree with you there. A lot of people always bring up the Trail of Tears with Andrew Jackson. Forget the Trail of Tears real quick, because that one's overdone. Like it's still an unfortunate thing, but that one, in terms of how much of an ass he was, is overdone. He did the whole Toledo Bay thing. He also went down to South Carolina and raided South Carolina. Like, if I don't know if you know about that, Matthew, because South Carolina was like, no, we're not accepting that federal tax. So like, okay, we'll send the federal army down there, and he just curb stomped the South Carolina National Guard and the state government of South Carolina. Like, Andrew Jackson was a menace for the most part. Like, honestly, I don't know how he was actually president, because he had lead poisoning so bad that a lot of people who actually saw him in person said he reeked, and he also slurred his speech terribly, and his hair was hardly in there. So,
that sounds like modern day.
I mean, that really
Andrew Jackson was an early innovator of the presidency.
He was I guess, I don't know. I mean, like, I would honestly, well, that can't go to him.
But we don't want to get political, though.
We can get political as long as it stays like before the 1960s, because that's so far back it doesn't even apply to the modern day. But as long as we're not giving opinions, you know, we're just talking about it. But I mean, like, hell, he was a menace, man. I mean, like, a menace through and through. I've never seen anyone that was as much of a menace as him. My favorite president, just in case you all are wondering, is Theodore Roosevelt, because who in the world can say that Theodore Roosevelt was not a cool guy? You know, he founded the national parks. He actually instilled the first kinds of food and consumer safety standards in America. I mean, like, that was some good stuff there, because if it wasn't for him, we would still be eating like borax in the peas just to make them green. And I gotta say, I really respect that guy for a lot of reasons. Also,
I like the president that started the interstate system. Wasn't that Eisenhower?
Yeah, he's still pre-1960, so you can actually say Eisenhower was also a pretty cool guy too.
I think Eisenhower is one of my most favorite presidents of all time.
You know what's interesting to me is when John F. Kennedy called him up during the Cuban Missile Crisis. You know, have you heard that phone call?
I don't think so.
Well, you ought to pull it up and listen to it, because that was really cool, because Eisenhower was, of course, the president right before Kennedy. And so when Kennedy became president, he called up Eisenhower, one, because Kennedy served in the Second World War, and Eisenhower was the supreme Allied commander in the European theater, not the Pacific theater, that was MacArthur, but still, Kennedy had a lot of respect for him. So he called him up to ask on his opinion on what he would do in Cuba, considering that he was a very renowned general, and not only that, but the prior president. And it was a very interesting phone call. It really gave you like a real good look behind the scenes as to how both of them acted. And then there was another interesting phone call with Kennedy, although this is kind of getting into the realm where we really can't talk about the politics, where Kennedy was desegregating the schools here in the South, and he was on the phone with the governor of Mississippi, and the governor of Mississippi said, well, somebody just got killed. And then Kennedy said, oh, yeah, you see, that's why you ought to be getting up there right now. He's like, see, you learn. But also, just in case y'all are wondering who was killed in that specific instance, you can go listen to the phone call. It was a state trooper. A state trooper got beat to death in the street because everyone was getting into a riot and everything. But anyways, with that, we are on to the next one.
All right. And up next, we have a $50 donation from Darren Menard. Excuse me. I'm so sorry, Darren. I did mispronounce that. I did catch it. So Darren Menard put in that 50. And thank you very much, Darren, for that support. And we're now up to $6.1 thousand. So very, very nice. And moving on to our next question, we have one from, let's see, Cat Nico, who says, good question. How likely do you think it is that Volodymyr Zelensky will make more trips to other NATO members like Canada? I believe he's growing confident at traveling abroad.
I think the chances, I hate to say it because I know you're Canadian and you're hyped. You're like, yeah, hopefully he comes to Canada. I don't think he's going to make another trip again. I think that was just his one-off instance of taking a trip to a foreign country, and he did it in America because he knew, for one, America is the big money, pretty much Mr. Moneybags. If anyone's going to give money, it will be America. And second, everyone in the world was going to see it because American news goes everywhere in the Western world, and so he knew that that address would pretty much reach out across the threshold of America and into the rest of the Western world. So I don't think he's going to be making a trip again, because if he starts doing that, he may start projecting the image to his citizens, or he may fear that the image will be projected that he's using this time to go and pretty much boost his own image worldwide and leave them holding the bag here. And that's the main reason why he never traveled abroad until that one point. He made it a very short visit. It was only the flight there. He met the president, he addressed Congress, he got on the plane, and he flew right back. So I think that's most likely the only time he'll ever leave. I might be wrong, though, because you never hear about these plans until, like, the few hours before he's actually there. Because with him coming to America, it was like, hey, he might be coming to America tomorrow. And it's like, what? That's like such short notice, that can't happen. And then he just showed up, and it's like, what? It's like, he's here. Like, that's insane. So I don't know, but I feel like that may have been the only time he'll ever leave. So with that, I hope that does address the comment fairly well. And also, someone asked me, Matthew, who was the most corrupt president ever? A very interesting question. And I am going to answer it because it doesn't fall within our post-1960s window. And it's going to be a guy y'all probably never heard about. The man I'm talking about is Warren G. Harding, who had to have been...
Is that the guy that needed the bathtub, like that was oversized or something?
That's Taft. Taft was the big guy.
Oh.
This guy right here was the president in between 1921 and 1923.
It looks pretty damn serious, if you ask me.
He was corrupt as hell. Like, if you had ever seen anyone that was corrupt, it was this man. He is the guy.
He lived in Ohio.
Oh my God! Wait a minute, he did?
Yes.
Oh my
This
God!
guy lived in rural Ohio.
Is this why everyone hates
most normal
Ohio?
thing to come out of Ohio. Yes.
But anyways, this guy, when he died, the Teapot Dome scandal came to be known. Like, it was happening during his presidency, and he was allowing it to happen. Like,
You're kidding.
Yeah, this is the guy who was like the most corrupt president ever in U.S. history, and nobody knows him. Well, listen, we're not talking about minor politics. We're talking about something we can talk about.
Oh, well, yeah, back in the day, I mean, maybe he's the most corrupt. But, I mean, as time goes on, everything gets better as time goes on.
Well, I mean, do you know what the Teapot Dome scandal was?
Yeah. The guy drank the tea out of the pot, and he wanted to know where he took the lid.
I mean, no, it was a lot more. It was a lot bigger than that. And it was pretty much just where he was.
No, seriously, like I don't know what that is like, to be serious. Now, I would actually be curious to know, because it sounds like something serious.
So, let me read you off the first bit, because I'll have to make sure that I get the story correct. So let me read it off. So, the Teapot Dome scandal was a bribery scandal involving the administration of the United States President Warren G. Harding. Secretary of the Interior Albert Bacon Fall had leased Navy petroleum reserves at Teapot Dome in Wyoming, as well as 2 locations in California, to private oil companies at low rates without competitive bidding. The leases were the subject of a seminal investigation by Walsh. Convicted of accepting bribes from the oil companies, Fall became the first presidential cabinet member to go to prison. No one was convicted of paying the bribes. This was, before Watergate, the biggest scandal that had ever occurred in American politics. They literally gave away U.S. military oil paid for by the taxpayer to private companies practically for free for them to profit off of, with no congressional oversight. The whole thing was shady as hell. It was very scandalous at the time, and this is one of the few things. Like, this is the big one, the Teapot Dome one. But everything else that you could think of that a corrupt person would do was being done under this man's presidency. Like, he was a very questionable guy.
This guy got caught, at least. You know the rest of them do it. They all do it to an extent. It's understood that there's always going to be some level of corruption in the government, but eventually some of them get caught, and apparently he wasn't good at hiding it.
Well, I mean, no, he was pretty good at hiding it, because this was exposed after he died, and almost all of the scandals came to be after his death, came to be publicly known after he died. So while he was president, all of this was being kept under pretty close wraps. No one really knew about this stuff.
So like nothing came as a result of it.
Nah, not really. I mean, like that one guy went to prison, and that was just about it. You know, it was like, oh, look, and then everyone was like, wow, this guy's corrupt, and then everyone just forgot about him for the rest of all history. Like, no one knows who he is. Like, if you ask someone, like, who was the 29th president of the United States, they wouldn't know. Like, this guy just doesn't exist for most people. Also, Bunday is also correct. He hired his whole family into government positions.
Hey.
That's just, well, anyways, we are on to the next one.
Wait a minute, go back down. Oh man, you clicked off of it.
Oh no, I'll go back. Go back down. So we'll go back down. What about it?
Go down a little bit more. That guy right there had a hell of a hairdo. Look at that hairdo on him.
Man, look at that.
Man.
Dude,
that's kind of like my hairdo, but on the opposite side. Like he parted his hair on the opposite way.
Matthew's a Warren G. Harding wannabe. Wait a minute, hang on.
That was a younger Harding, I think.
Let me see here. Also, here he is in 1919.
What was he, a lawyer or something?
Let's see what his profession was. He was a state senator. Started off in politics. He was an editor?
An editor for what?
Harding.
Oh yeah, teacher and an insurance man.
Oh boy, yeah, you know someone being an insurance man. I'm not. That's but anyways. In partnership with others to purchase a failing newspaper, the Marion Star. And then let's see here, secretary. So it seems as though he just bounced around from kind of like odd jobs. Like, he was a teacher, an insurance man. He tried to buy a newspaper. Like, this guy
sounds kind of strange. Somehow he got connected, though.
Yeah, but you know what's really weird is that back in the day, the qualifications to be president were actually kind of low because if you think about it, Woodrow Wilson, before he became president of the United States, was a professor in history. He was the only one who did that before he became president, and he just got elected. Like, it is kind of weird to look at presidents back in the day because there was none of this mindset nowadays where you have to be like super qualified for the position. Like, you know, you were just a teacher, and it's like, oh yeah, you could be a president. You know, like it's like what in the world? Like nowadays that would not fly at all. You would have to have been in.
Wait, what?
Like just, you know, not really being involved in politics or a lot, or being a really big up person in the world that's like one of the richest people. If you were just like a professor of history at, like, you know, Harvard, you'd be like, get the hell out of here. You're not going to be running for president. You're not even going to show up on our party's ticket for the like, you know, what I forgot what the hell it's called, the caucus. But
so you think that it's become more strenuous to become president in the modern day?
Yeah, for like your prerequisites, and don't sit there and bring up the last one and go, well, I mean, like, he didn't really do it.
I'm not saying nothing about specific ones. I'm just saying that the standard is going down for what's required to be in politics.
I would disagree. I mean, like, I would say that, like, think about it. The current president was in politics for nearly 50 years before he became the president. The guy before him had been spending his whole entire life accumulating wealth to get a net worth of $4 billion. At least that was what was said at the time. The guy before him was also in politics for decades. And back in the day, you could be a guy like Woodrow Wilson and just be a professor of history at Harvard. And back in the day, that wasn't that hard to get a job at Harvard. And then you become the president.
But for example, the one prior to Orange Man, he was simply like a community planner and then got connected and somehow worked his way all up to the executive.
Yeah, well, yeah, but that's really how everyone does it these days, though. It's not like, and that's still a decent amount of qualifications, though. Not qualifications, a decent amount of time working up to that when you think about it, you know. But anyways, we're going to move on to the next one because this is going to. I can already tell we're about to start moving in a direction. But with that, on to the next one.
And up next, we have a question from Raphael Harris. He says, Enforcer, excuse me, is there any reason that you don't give reactions to President Zelensky's nightly video address?
Yes, because I'm usually using that moment for a restroom break or to check emails. So I usually am not able to respond to it because I was either in the restroom peeing and I did not have the chance to really watch the speech a lot, or I was trying to look at emails and messages and things that had come through on stream that I have to try and address as soon as possible or plan on addressing after the stream. So with that, I hope that answers the question fairly well, and we are on to the next one.
All right. And up next, never mind, I won't address that one. I was going to jump right on that one, but never mind. Up next, we have a question from Avari Mandubratis, who says, Enforcer, have you seen in the news any drone boat footage? I wonder how effective they are against Russian ships in open water at night.
I wonder if they would be effective. I'm not sure if they would or would not be. We have seen them in action, and it is supposed that those were the drones that were used to bomb the Kerch Bridge and destroy some of it. But we don't really know about that for sure. But we do know that they were successful in damaging some ships at port in Sevastopol during a raid that occurred about a month or a month and a half ago. And so with that, I hope that does address the comment fairly well. And thank you so much once again for the support. And well, not the why in the world am I talking? Why in the world am I saying that? Anyways, thank you so much for the question. I hope we answered it fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one. I get so brainwashed that the super chat segment is here that I think that everyone's sending in a super chat for some reason. But we're on to the next one.
But it is support Enforcer, because without these questions, the stream would end way too early. So they're supporting us by keeping us running for at least until 11:30.
At least. And also, speaking of 11:30, we are going to keep the stream running until 11:30. So y'all can see on my screen it's 11:12 here local time, so we'll be running for the next 28 minutes. Actually, I'm sorry, no, that's wrong. That'll be the next 18 minutes. So with that, we are on to the next one.
Oh my goodness. I would love to address that one so badly. That's got me cracked up. But anyways, up next we have a question from Jay Bagwell, who says, Enforcer Matt and Enforcer, I wonder if Russia has any working spy satellites anymore. It doesn't seem that they are using them. If so,
I don't know if they have any operational military satellites. It appears that due to the lack of information they have on anything in Ukraine, they must not. Because a lot of their planning on the first days of the war appear to have been based off of maps, like actual just paper maps. Like they targeted older surface-to-air missile defense system installations that showed up on their maps, but the Ukrainians had long since largely dated with their new technology. So I would say that they probably don't have operational ones based off of what we've been seeing them doing and the little information they have going into this war. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
and didn't they have that like junky satellite that was about to like wreck, so they decided to like smash it into like some other country's satellite, and it caused debris to go everywhere?
I think so. I think you're correct on that one. You know, the Russians are really a menace everywhere, even in space when you think about it. And we're already talking about space is getting so filled with junk that it's getting really hard to launch satellites up there. And then they're going to sit there and collide two into each other so that way they can just create millions of small particles of junk. So that way if anything goes flying through the debris cloud, it just gets screwed over.
Yeah, I wonder what would happen if you launched like I guess an intercontinental missile at like a satellite. Could it take it down?
Oh hell yeah, it would. I mean, like, of course it would. Even if it blew up a distance away, I'm sure that just the force of it would probably cause a lot of the electronics to screw up and become inoperable.
Huh. I wonder if that's in the plans if like anybody decided to go nuclear to like smack the satellites out, or are they not worried about that?
Probably not worried about it because at that point, that kind of information wouldn't matter, and their ground bases that are being used to collect that information probably wouldn't even exist anymore. They would be flattened.
Huh. Interesting. Yeah, I guess that's the truth. But anyways, up next we have a question from Richard Rohde, who says, would jamming GLONASS impact the Shahed drones and missiles?
I don't really know. I don't know what GLONASS is, so unfortunately I'm gonna
GPS.
have to... Oh. I would say maybe. I'm not really sure. I would have to declare ignorance on that one though, because that's getting more into like an engineering standpoint of things, or I guess you could say a technological standpoint, and I don't really get into that level of detail or know much about it to speak on it. So with that, we are on to the next one.
And Mallet said about being president and the qualifications. Then forward in the day, you could be a YouTuber. But now the enforcer's going on to law school, though. That's why he's going, because we don't want to be like, more modern people and politicians and things like that. You want to build up your resume a little bit before you move on to bigger and better things.
Yeah, and the plan is to go to law school and then to become an attorney for a short while, most likely, or to immediately go into an election to become a representative in the House of Representatives for the state of Alabama for this district, or to wait a little bit longer to try and become a senator and then become the president later, or to become the president as soon as I turn 35 or become eligible to. That's at least the plan right now. It's very ambitious, and the concept of getting into the House of Representatives nearly at the minimum age is pretty far out there realistically, and also the idea of becoming the president near the age of 35 is also very difficult and very challenging. There's been very few presidents that have even gotten close to the minimum age, but it's always possible. I'm never ruling it out, and hopefully I'll have been able to build up enough confidence with all of y'all and the public that I could easily breeze through those two things, and hopefully I sound like I'm making common sense when I'm running for these positions and talking about things plaguing America. And that's always something interesting to me, though, and I find it completely paradoxical, Matthew, whenever a election is going on, the people who are running are always asked about how they're going to deal with America's issues, and they're always issues that are happening during the election. But the thing is like, those moments are fleeting during an election. By the time they become the president, a representative, or a senator, that problem has already come and gone, and it doesn't even exist anymore by the time they get into office. And if they ever want to address it, they have to pretty much go back in time and redo that decision that affected something 8 months ago before they were even in the office to try and make it look like they've done something. I don't really get that much. I feel like presidential debates, well, not even presidential debates, any kind of political debates or discussions or questions shouldn't be wrapped around particular instances in time and particular problems that are happening during the election, because those things it's such a passing moment most of the time that they'll never be able to act on whatever they're talking about unless if it's some kind of an ideological thing. And I just don't get that much. Like back in
the... something I don't understand is, and sadly, if you're like seriously going to try to run for president in 2040?
Yes.
You're probably going to have to end up like picking an extreme left or right, because I don't think there's any chance for a middle of the line, I guess, like moderate to really have a chance of winning, especially if the political climate keeps getting more divided. You're not going to have any funding.
Well, I'm not really sure about that, Matthew, because right now it's kind of like a pendulum. Usually it goes very far in both directions to the extremes, and then the extremes usually balance out and go back towards the middle. And I'm hoping that by that time it would have gone back towards the middle, because, you're kind of right on that. But with that, we're on to the next one.
Yes. And also, I have to say as well that hopefully, like the enforcer's saying, it goes back to being moderate, because I would like to go back to the days when we used to be able to look at like serious issues that were happening. Like, for example, if the roads are crumbling or something like that, like the mundane things like we used to address way back in the day that we don't address anymore, because we get caught up in like, I guess, like philosophical issues and issues that never really have a chance of ever getting actually fixed because of the party divides. It would be nice if we went back to just like simple things, like when Eisenhower proposed the interstate. That was something useful. We actually got some kind of benefit out of it, and everybody felt good about paying their taxes and stuff, a little bit more, but not all the way. Nobody really likes taxes anyway, but everybody felt a little bit better then, because stuff was actually getting done that we could see like firsthand. But now nothing like that's happening, and everybody's caught up in all these abstract issues, which are kind of like, they're important, but they're not as important as like the things that we physically see every day, if that makes sense.
And that's true. And another thing that I really hate, and I just hate this so much, and I will say this because this is something that I can make as an equal critique on both sides. Both the current president and the former president, both from two opposite parties, both swore up and down when they were in the election that they were going to fund Amtrak to provide high-speed rail nationwide. Neither of them carried through on that promise, and I think that's absolutely stupid. And of course, they always threw that in instead of being a priority party platform, which I think it should have been. it's being thrown in as like a side note, like a little dog biscuit or something. And I just thought that was really stupid to throw that in as a side token on both of them, and then at the same time to never follow through. Amtrak got billions of dollars again, this time from the current administration, and instead of earmarking that funding to Amtrak to provide high-speed rail outside of the Northeast Corridor, they put all of that money into designing the Avelia Liberty, which was completely useless and wasn't needed because the Acela Express was already doing the job. And that kind of stuff just irks the hell out of me because those kind of things matter to me. All the philosophical stuff, getting into a little bit of what I would actually probably prioritize, is a little bit silly to me because, you know, there's no actual end to that. It just goes on forever, and that's probably what they're banking on, is that people will always be invested in that stuff and keep, you know, just getting crazier and crazier because nothing ever changes with it. But things like high-speed rail infrastructure improvements and stuff like that, that's very important to me, and that's one of the few things that the government actually controls. Like, if you look at society and our culture, the government really doesn't have a lot of control over that. That's kind of like a very loose connection in between the two, and it just kind of intersects with each other every once in a while. You can make a small decision here and there, but it doesn't really change the direction that society is naturally going in. However, you can change the direction of infrastructure and things like that. That's something that the government has direct input and control over, yet you never see anyone actually trying to emphasize those parts of government control and actually utilize them for the nation's benefit. It just doesn't make any sense to me why no one is focusing on that. And I feel like if someone just ran on a platform that was just largely based on actually improving daily life, you know, like improving infrastructure in all regards, I feel like that would actually be a winning platform. I don't know.
It wouldn't be. I got to disagree, because you'll have somebody come along that is, I don't know how else to put it, a loudmouth, and they're going to say, look at this clown over here talking about the roads while the country's being invaded. They'll say something like that.
But you know, if you have some common sense, instead of just being like, you know, like everyone who, for some reason, everyone in politics can never really debate much. Like a lame zinger gets put in that can be put down in an instant, and neither side can ever just tackle the zinger and be like, what the hell are you talking about? Like what? Like
they don't ever debate the issues. They immediately resort to ad hominem attacks over and over and over, and that's how they get stuck in that loop and they never get out of it.
Like here's something I'll say. I honestly think that either, whether it be Amtrak or private companies doing it, high-speed rail and rail transportation in general is something that must be done and must come back to the United States. It was here before. It's how this country largely grew most of its economic power all the way up until the 1950s and 60s, and then it died. And so whether we are subsidizing things like Brightline or whether we're directly building the high-speed rail itself through government funding and then supporting it through tax dollars, something has to be done to try and bring this stuff back. That's something huge to me. And improve roads. We've got, like, you know, those are two big things to me, especially coming from Alabama, where it seems like every road is paved, but no road has any quality or upkeep put into it. That's kind of a big deal to me, especially coming from the state that has some problems with it. And then there's, you know, there's just a lot to deal with, but it's mostly things that aren't vogue. You know, it's not things that everyone's keeping in the picture. You know, it's stuff that actually affects you daily, but no one talks about, no one addresses, and no one fixes. Probably because that's a little bit more difficult to do. You know, it's really difficult to make a campaign platform saying we're going to improve road infrastructure, because that is something that takes almost a decade to do from start to finish. And so no one will ever really see that get done within your term. It'll have to be something that's carried on over into another president's term.
And also it's considered boring to voters. Like, I'm not talking about like everybody. There's going to be people in the live chat saying, well, no, I actually pay attention to issues. And some of you do. But for the vast majority of America, they don't care about mundane issues like that. They care about the sensational issues, and that's what gets people elected. And that's what the politicians need, is the votes. And that's all they care about.
Yeah, and I mean, and also, Jamie Martinez is saying there are real requirements for high-speed rail. Absolutely, and this is one thing that they're getting wrong. I'll show you this. I don't know, why in the world is this going into my policies in a way, like what I'm thinking of. Anyways, high-speed rail map. Let me show y'all what Amtrak has planned for high-speed rail, and let me tell you why this is a dumb plan. So, right here, this is their high-speed rail layout, and can we actually get the whole picture, please? Like they cut off Florida.
You said please, like you're begging the website. Please,
Yeah.
can we have it?
Okay, so here we go. Here is all the high-speed rail corridors that are planned according to Amtrak that will probably never come to be. You can see that a lot of them are in Florida, and that's actually pretty good. I like the density down there. But one thing that's stupid to me is, like, look at these. No, thank you. Look at these. What in the hell is this doing? Going from Chicago to Denver to Salt Lake City to Las Vegas and then to Los Angeles. That makes no sense, because while it's providing service to these states and probably appeasing constituents, that makes no sense at all funding wise, because it's never going to compete with airlines at that kind of distance. These high-speed trains at that point are becoming inefficient compared to airliners. The one down here to the south is the only one that makes sense to me. And maybe the gray line that goes to Denver and Cheyenne. Maybe that makes sense, but still, there's not enough density out there in the Midwest to really support high-speed rail. I think legacy lines like the Empire Builder should continue to exist, maybe improve their infrastructure so they can be higher speed rail around the speeds of 120 miles per hour, but it would make absolutely no sense to dump tons of money and just waste it on these Midwestern lines. It would be much better to segregate the two and have a Western sector that focuses entirely on the west coast of the United States, and then an eastern sector that focuses entirely on the eastern seaboard from about Missouri over, and as far over as Texas in the south. That would make sense, and this is why this stuff is lame, and this is just a grab at whoever made this to voters, because, you know, you look at, if you're from Colorado, you look at that map, oh my god, I'm getting serviced by 2 high-speed rail lines. But in actuality, that makes no actual sense to have 2 high-speed rail lines go through Nowheresville, through Nebraska and Utah, and then through New Mexico to get there. It's just completely unfeasible. It's too expensive to run. Like, you know, like countries like Japan.
I don't think high-speed rail would ever work in the United States, because the country is not, like, it's not set up like the UK, for example. They have a really robust rail system over there, but the United States is really sprawled out, and it's just not the same.
And that's another big thing, is density. And you would have to, and this type of stuff would actually not just be like my 2 terms. If I got 2 terms, this would have to be like a multi like almost a bipartisan multi-term deal that occurred over several presidents' lifespans. Like if you look at Britain or any European country, city densities are incredibly thick, and so it makes mass transit very easy to pull off. You can have railroads, you can have buses, and then you can have centralized train stations. Like, I know Coventry's got to have, here we go, here's Coventry's rail station. You have a bus or a taxi station right outside. It takes you where else you need to go in the country. I think it could work in America, actually, thinking about that, Matthew, because while we don't have the density of European cities, because they've never undergone urban sprawl, we do have Uber and other kinds of services like that have popped up everywhere, and so you could make I guess you could say a ramp at these train stations where people could get Ubers and then be transported wherever they're wanting to go, or get connected into larger bus routes that are either operated by the state government, the company that's running that railroad, or the federal government if it's being run by Amtrak or something similar. It's possible. It's possible, but it has a lot of American challenges to it, and there has to be some form of realism and some acceptance from constituents to understand high-speed rail wouldn't work in the Midwest. You would still have to use an airline out there, because it's just too much of ground to cover. The railroads become inefficient compared to the airlines, and they're also incredibly expensive to maintain that much track for that little benefit.
The cheaper alternative would be?
What would the cheaper alternative be, my boy?
If you want to get around the United States quicker, and you want to utilize existing infrastructure, simply make the interstates just like they do in Germany. There's sections which are unrestricted on speed, like the Autobahn.
Yeah, but at the same time, you're ruling out this one thing. To get a license to drive a car in Germany is incredibly tedious and very in-depth.
We should up the requirements here too, because
but then you start getting into people's
some folks don't belong on the road.
Yeah, but then you start getting into people's right to travel, and you're impeding their right. And then also you've got to look at a normal American city, like look at Birmingham. For us to get to college, we have to drive an hour just from one side of the city to the other to get there. If you start making licenses really hard to get, you are almost collapsing the entire U.S. economy, because no one can really get to their jobs, because a lot of people I know...
Well, wait, say that again?
you would pretty much be collapsing the U.S. economy at that point because it'd be such a rapid shift compared to the culture we have around cars that people wouldn't even be able to get to their jobs because they probably wouldn't be applicable for a new license because they would fail the test.
Possibly, but they could just brush up really good and pass it eventually, and have to pass the requirements because.
But what do they do in the meantime?
I mean, in the meantime, they could be granted like a temporary thing, I guess, and they're not allowed to get on, the unrestricted interstate. I don't know. That would probably be unconstitutional, but it was just an idea.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a bad idea, but still, there would be especially with how the U.S. is set up now, it just have so many issues actually implementing it that it probably wouldn't work to make the license requirements more strict. You could slowly ramp it up over time, but it would have to be small increments at a time. It couldn't just be like here's a whole new driving license requirement. Here's the test. You're gonna have to all take this within 2 years' time.
But I guess honestly, if you were to take the speed limits off the interstates like they do in Germany, how much more dangerous is it? Because if you're already going 80 miles an hour, that's already a pretty much a deadly crash if you wreck at that speed and hit a wall or a tree or something. If you were to go, let's say, 120 miles an hour, 140, if your car can even go that fast, some cars can't. But if you were to go that fast, what were the odds of you dying going 80 miles an hour?
I don't really feel like it's the risk to the driver who's creating the crash. I feel like that risk is more so on the drivers behind them on the road, because you got to remember stopping distance becomes a lot longer the higher the speed you're at. And so if there's a crash in front of you and you're going 140 miles an hour, you might not be able to slow down in time to be able to avoid yourself getting into a fatal incident by the time you hit that crash. But at 80 miles an hour, you might be able to get slow enough that you'll get injured, but you won't get killed. I think that might be the way they're looking at that as to why the speed limit's 70 or 80, depending on what state you're in.
Also, by the way, Tom X-Men said, let's see, the Autobahn has higher accident rates. That's actually not true. The Autobahn has a much lower fatality rate than our roads.
And also another thing, Matthew, you got to remember is that with higher speeds comes more maintenance, because the more you push your vehicle, the faster it's going to break down, I guess you could say. So if you made it the speed limit to be going 120 or 140, that car is going to have to probably be put in a lot more for servicing just for the engine than anything else, and that might become a little bit cost expensive for average people to do, because the Autobahn, the whole thing isn't just the max speed possible. There's one
it's just
lane,
some segments, yeah.
There's one lane over to the far left side that you can go max speed at, but the rest of them are all somewhat more normal speeds.
Oh, and also I see that we're having a riot start in the chat. They want us to get back to the questions, by the way.
All right. So with that, we are going. Also, we passed 11:30, so we're going to answer as many questions as we can until 11:40. So with that, we are on to the next one.
All right. And up next, real quick, a shout out to William Thompson and also Rustin Rott for putting in a $50 donation each. And thank you both very much for getting us up to $6.3 thousand. And we are going to the next question, which goes to, let's see here. It's going to go to T. Rogers, who says, do you know where the Russian missiles are being launched from?
Yes, we do. We know that some of them were being launched in the direction of the Caspian Sea. Some of them are being launched in the Black Sea by the Black Sea Fleet, and other ones are being launched from land-based platforms inside of Russia, and every once in a while in Belarus as well. Pretty much anywhere in the area that the Russians can operate some kind of a missile launching vehicle, they're using them. And so with that, I hope that answers the question fairly well, and we're on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Aaron Walters, who says, have you watched the Terra Ops on YouTube? They put out good videos of what they're doing in Bakhmut.
And I have. We've actually showed their videos a decent amount on this channel as well. And they do a really good job, the Terra group does. But of course, last night, Kraken stole the show because their stuff was high-end. It was Gucci stuff. But with that, I hope we answered that question. And we are on to the next one.
All right. And just real quick, trying to do a little house cleaning here. Got a few of them that jumped in here real quick. There they go, and they're gone. And up next, we have a question from Enforcer for President, who says, how is Enforcer's friend reason for starting stream? Are they safe, fighting, or inventing? I've been thinking about the reason the stream was created. Can we get him to join us, possibly?
He is safe, and I hate to say it, I don't really get to talk to him much. He kind of just like disappeared. He's fine though. Every once in a while he does respond, and he's fine still. But he really freaked me out for those first 2 weeks because I made this from the watch. I was like, hey, I'm trying to help you out. He didn't respond for 2 weeks, and he was like, I'm okay. I'm fine. I was like, dude, where have you been? He's like, I'm fine. Yeah, I'm good. But moving on from that, I also tried to get him on here before. Actually, in the first 2 weeks of this channel, I had planned for him to get on, but he told me it's too early in the morning for him to get on and talk, and so he didn't want to get on ever. And so I was like, oh, okay. I was like, wait. So I hope that answers the question fairly well, and we are on to the next one.
All right, and up next we have a question from something to Wheeler, who says, "Is Russia too good a country to be left to the Russians? Let's liberate that toilet desert."
Wait a minute, is what country too good to what?
Russia.
Is Russia too good to be liberated by Russia?
Yes.
No, I think they could try. It will be a little bit tough though. Coups will probably be very difficult to pull off in Russia, and it appears that they never really developed, like we were thinking, the atmosphere where a coup would become possible. It doesn't really seem like there would be enough public support behind that if it was to happen, at least as far as we know. And so with that, I hope I answered that question fairly well, and we are on to the next one.
All right, and up next we have a question from Mr. Clamptastic, who says, "Enforcer Matt and Enforcer, how do you guys think the manufacturing in Ukraine is compared to the Russian manufacturing capabilities at this point of the war and Slav Ukraine?"
I would honestly say that they're probably on par, which is good for the Ukrainians. The Ukrainians appear to be producing things that they actually need, and we've never really gotten any indication that the Russians have been able to manufacture much beyond small arms. So, and maybe 152 millimeter ammunition, because we are seeing that they're getting some kind of a trickle of ammunition from inside of Russia, but it's not the massive amounts they were using at the beginning of the war. So it looks like industrially the two are on par right now, and what's really setting Ukraine above Russia is that they have the industrial and economic power of the West being put behind them, and Western equipment and Western support continues to arrive in Ukraine, which is really helping them to get a little bit of an extra edge beyond this industrial stalemate. And so with that, I hope I answered that question fairly well, and we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Landlubber says, "What's the meaning of life?" That might be a little deep. I'm not sure we're going to be able to answer that question, but Landlubber, to each his own on that one. And I don't think we're either qualified to answer that question. We're too young.
I know what the meaning of life is to me, or at least my purpose.
Okay.
Okay, and
oh, is that just like a statement, or is that like a preface to something?
It's kind of a preface, but I was just seeing if you were going to like say something before I said it. But my idea of the purpose of life is to improve the situation. That sounds really stupid, actually, but allow me to explain. Maybe it'll get a little bit better. The purpose that I'm alive for, and I feel like it really should be everyone's purpose to be alive, is to try and make things improved by the end of the day, regardless of what field you're working in. If you're going to be in the field of administration and governance, it should be to improve your country and get it into a better position by the end of whatever time you're there than it was before. And if you're working in anything else, that should be the goal. Like if you're working in a restaurant, it should be to provide the best food possible, the best experience possible to make someone's day. And I guess you can kind of see that with how I run this stream. Like hell or high water, even if we're taking a break from the stream.
42.
42. What's up with that?
Yeah, what's everybody saying 42 for?
42.
Did I miss something?
I don't know.
42. 42 what?
Everyone's throwing that in. I'm looking through the live chat trying to see if I can find why they're saying that. I cannot find it. Weird.
I don't know why they're putting in 42.
I don't know why either. I feel like I ought to join in on this, so I'm going to put in a 42 as well. But anyways, I feel like it should be to improve anything and everything. At the end of the day, everyone that you can possibly help ought to be a little bit better off than they were at the start. But that's just really my purpose. You know, beyond that, I don't really see a purpose. Like if it's just I guess you could say selfish improvement, not selfless improvement, is not really helping out much, and there's not going to be much left over. Because, you know, while you'll be doing fine while you're alive, it's not really leaving behind a legacy of improvement that will actually help out in a bigger picture beyond, you know, just your own existence. So I always view that the purpose of life is really to just improve everything as best you can for the next people to come along. But with that, we are on to the next one.
And also a correction on the poll. The third option meant to say no, USA drivers aren't qualified, but for some reason it autocorrected to are. So that's why that answer doesn't make any sense. But anyways, let's see. We have one more question to go, and then we'll address the poll right after that. Would you like to go through the little whole segment about the last question?
Yes. And so, who is the lucky last person to ask the lucky last question of the night?
All right. And with that out of the way, the question goes to Frequency Harmonic, who says, Enforcer, do you think Ukraine actually has the resources to launch a Kharkiv-style offensive before spring, or are they only getting enough from the West to hold the line?
I think they do have enough to conduct another offensive, because back when that happened, everyone was saying, oh, the Ukrainians aren't getting enough to launch an offensive. There's just not enough support coming from the West. They'll never be able to recover. And then they launched that counteroffensive 3 days after that story started to circulate, and it was a complete lie. So I think that they will be able to do it again without a problem. We've already provided them with as much support as we can. A lot of it's still sitting inside of Poland because the Ukrainians just otherwise can't use it, and we don't want to risk it being destroyed in a depot. So I'm very certain that they will be able to conduct another counterattack here in the near future. And so with that, I hope that answers the question fairly well. And with that, let's get on to this final poll and then wrap up tonight's stream.
All right. So the question is, would you like to see American interstates adopt the Autobahn's unrestricted speed rule? 34% said, yes, I want to go fast. Yes, sir. Oh, 33% now. Oh, sad. 15% said unsure, and 28% said no, USA drivers aren't qualified, and 24% said no for some other reason. Now, I want to say, because I would love to go as fast as possible, I would say I want to go fast, but at the same time, I would say probably at least 50% of the drivers on the road probably aren't qualified to go that fast. So I'm kind of torn between the two, but I would love to go fast. Wouldn't y'all love to just get on the interstate and like floor it in the fast lane? That would be so fun.
I would have to honestly say that I would have to fall within 27% to say U.S. drivers are not qualified. I see enough heinous driving on Highway 280 here in Alabama as it is, and I feel like if we gave everyone that's driving on that highway unlimited speeds, or just on the interstate alone, unlimited speed, I feel like that would be a recipe for disaster, especially with how people drive and how there's very little awareness from driver to driver, and also how people act in general. People are getting more violent as time goes by driving, and a lot more road rage is occurring, and I could just imagine the road rage would truly be apocalyptic at unlimited speeds. so with that, I hope that answers the poll fairly well, at least in my opinion. Of course, I would honestly say, you know, because of course there's always a stipulation, if the requirements to get a driver's license were greatly increased and it was at the level that the Germans require, and also there's a whole lot of other stuff that the Germans require, like the Germans require that your car must be up to date, modern, and roadworthy to be able to drive on the Autobahn and other things. If you had all of those requirements in place, I would say yes, but we don't, and I honestly feel like if you started to place that many restrictions on driving, it's kind of losing the aspect of, I guess you could say, the freedom of travel, if you want to say that we have in America, because, you know, it's starting to become so restricted that you either have to take public transportation, which at that point probably wouldn't exist, or you're screwed. And so,
let me see if you know this. Do you know what the most like crazy driving like vehicle is on the interstate? What is the vehicle that always drives the craziest in the fast lane?
Usually an 18-wheeler, because they're always going so freaking slow in the fast lane.
Nope, that's not it. It's you know, those old Nissan Altimas that are always like beat to hell and stuff like that, that have the fender hanging off and everything.
Yeah.
Those Nissan Altima drivers are a whole nother breed. Like those old ones that are really beat up, they're always like going at least 120 down the fast lane, like swerving everywhere.
They are. They really
always
are.
Those.
Yeah. Man, I gotta tell you, that is right. They absolutely are. And especially especially on the stretch of interstate in between Montgomery and Mobile. That feels like the place where that happens the most. Like, that's like Blood Bowl. Like, Interstate 65
Oh,
in
man.
between Montgomery and Mobile is a Blood Bowl.
That's true. That's true.
And some people are about
Somebody
to
said
call-
Nissan Versa. Man, the Nissan Versa, it's a nice little car, but that thing has like, I think 100 horsepower or 50 horsepower, I think.
It's probably. Also, another thing I would say, and this is something that a lot of urban planners are trying to combat now. I feel like, for the most part, because this is something I could get behind, I feel like congestion fees might need to be levied in some places, like in central Birmingham.
Oh, no.
Well, yeah, well, hear me out on this, though. At certain times of the day, you're in deadlock traffic in Birmingham, and if you put in congestion fees, you might be at least, and that's not something you can control on the federal level. That's a municipal level thing. So this is really just me free-handing an idea here, and of course, there's a lot of problems at hand with it. But going on from that, it would cut down on a little bit of traffic, but at the same time, you know, you run into the infrastructure problem again. There isn't really any public transportation, so people have to just suck it up and pay, and it's not really getting rid of any congestion because they're still having to drive there. So it doesn't really do anything in that goal. So forget that idea. That was a quick little idea thrown out. I sat there and thought about it for 2 seconds. That wasn't a smart one, because when you think about it, there's really no alternative. They would just have to pay extra money, be very discontent with doing that, and then that doesn't even change anything. It doesn't even improve anything. So that would be kind of dumb. But anyways, with that, it is time to end tonight's stream. I thank you all so much once again for watching. I hope y'all enjoyed tonight's news, and thank y'all so much once again for helping out World Central Kitchen. We were able to raise $6.3 thousand in support of Ukraine, and I've got to say, thank y'all so much once again for making this possible. And of course, it's just been an absolute pleasure covering the news with y'all this week, and also being here on New Year's as well. And so with that, thank you all so much once again for watching. I hope to see you all on Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern Time when we cover the next 48 hours of the war in Ukraine, and I will see you all then. Good night, take care, good luck, and slava Ukraini.
Go!
Yes.
The Lviv Spring Army sends its regards.
Усміхнеться доля, згинуть наші вороженьки, як роса на сонці, запануємо ми, браття, у своїй сторонці, душу й тіло ми положим за нашу свободу і покажем, що ми браття козацького роду, душу й тіло ми положим за нашу свободу і покажем, що ми браття козацького